This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. Well, Matt Chandler, I keep trying to get you to stay in Texas, and yet you keep just moseying your way on up to Oklahoma. So I don't know what that's about, but welcome again to the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, I think what brought me this time was the rut, even though they weren't really rutting.
Not really this time, but hey,
No.
You are actually part of like a dream that Adam has had for like years. Because I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, this was like before we actually had a legit studio. He was just like, hey, what if we like brought microphones out to the land and like recorded a podcast? And I'm obviously very technologically inclined. I'm very good at all that. Like, I know how all the buttons work. I know how all this stuff is currently working.
You set all this up yourself. Like,
correct.
We had no help.
Like, there's nobody
this is
on the other
Kyle
side
Thompson
of the fire
show.
at all.
It's a button.
And so I was just like, in my head, I'm like, I have no idea how to do that unless I moved everything from my house to here and like didn't unplug anything. And so I was like, great idea, Adam. No idea how to pull it off. And so but then you just persisted, right?
Yeah, these are
You're like Elizabeth Warren.
These are two things that Kyle is specifically good at. And I'm wondering if we could possibly rank Kyle's hunting skill with his technological skill. So let's go with hunting first.
Well,
Okay.
the first thing I think, you have to get up in the morning and go. You can't just stay in your warm bed. You have to have the courage,
And that's obviously step one.
the resilience,
Right.
the masculinity, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, this has
To
been a hard
get-
hunt, really hard hunt.
It's been freezing.
It's been
cold.
difficult. And so how many days have we been at it, Matt?
I mean, you and I, or the three of us?
I mean,
because we're
just-
going to have to do some subtraction
Yeah,
if
we've
we
been-
add Kyle's
So this is
numbers in.
already fallen off the rails a little bit here because, you know.
I thought that you brought
No,
up the land and hunting.
Everybody knows, and I've said this from the beginning, just listen to your body and don't push it. Like, that's like my thing. Like,
Right.
physically, don't put yourself past your limits. Like, you know,
Waking up at 5:30, it is difficult, Kyle. I know.
listen,
Adam,
the
how many
bed,
times have you and I hunted together?
the bed was warm.
And how many times have I slept
It was
in?
chilly.
Have we hunted together? Yes.
Yeah.
You usually sleep in. It's a pretty regular occurrence.
So,
See, I didn't know this. I just thought it was a one-off.
It's
Okay, this is
literally-
actually the first time he ever did it.
thank you.
So,
See, so it
okay.
is a one-off.
All right, that's what I
Okay.
thought. But
But I
There is
did-
going to be a jiu-jitsu tournament immediately following this this campfire discussion.
There's
What are
not-
we calling this? Did we ever decide?
I don't know I would need somebody to stop the timer on how long it took Kyle to bring up BJJ.
yeah, that was a quick shift. It was like
Actually,
hunting,
it wasn't.
AV.
I literally thought we wouldn't get in 60 seconds.
Right, that's true.
So that we're at like the 5-minute mark.
I've been very clear. I am a walking billboard for 4 things: the gospel of Jesus, jiu-jitsu, eating red meat, and Christian metal.
Pro
And
ginger.
So,
Pro ginger.
you
gotta
know,
throw that in there.
well, you're
That's-
here, so
that's fine.
well, the discussion we were having before we started rolling, y'all said you didn't believe that I was a ginger, which is like one of the weirdest things that anyone has ever said to me.
Well,
like,
you use
I've
it-
been faking it this whole time.
You use it to your advantage all the time. It's
When
too
is
convenient.
it ever an advantage?
Every time you
Every
put-
time I'm in the sun, disadvantage, right? Every time someone's like, "Oh, I'm looking for someone attractive to date," disadvantage, right?
True.
But look at your beard, like your perfectly groomed red beard, and that's kind of like your signal.
Well, you know, and we have a ginger that's off screen as well. He's currently being sunburned by the fire, and so like
No, I
that's,
saw him. He was putting
that's
some
part of
cream
the
on.
issue,
Sunscreen,
right?
yeah.
See, that's the thing that people like don't really take into account is like when they just get a ginger baby, they're like the amount of sunscreen investment over the 18 years just to get that kid to adulthood it's significant.
I've heard that SPF 15 is just as good as FPF 50. Is that true, Ginger?
It might as well be. I might as well rub water on my skin as opposed to like SPF 15. Like that
Well,
doesn't
and then
do anything.
do you think sunscreen's like a conspiracy? Like, did you see like cancer's gone up since they introduced sunscreen?
I've seen this. This is
Wait
true.
a minute.
This
Is this a
true.
joke?
No, this is true.
Wait, you haven't read this?
This feels very jokey
It
because
is 100%.
It was on Candace
spent
Owens'
roughly-
show.
In the
too.
comments, go ahead and put the links.
I've spent roughly
So-
8% of my life applying sunscreen to my body, and so
There
I'm
are
dying, is what
studies
you're
now
saying.
that show that there's been a massive increase in skin cancer since the introduction of sunscreen.
True. Fact
Check me.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Wait, so what? We're just not supposed to wear sunscreen?
I think you're supposed to be in the sun responsibly.
Yeah, I think the problem
What does
is
that mean?
we're indoors more than we were we were ever meant to be. So we're constantly indoors. We're not getting, the proper amount of vitamin D. And someone in the comments is going to flame me because vitamin D probably has nothing to do with it. But that's okay. I don't care. Oh, does it?
No, I
how
think
about
that's
that?
part of the whole thing.
Yeah, no vitamin D.
You're supposed to get like normal vitamin D, not like pill form.
So because we're indoors all the time on our freaking iPhones, we're not out getting the vitamin D that we should, getting the natural resistance to the sun that we should, so that like sun exposure shouldn't be that big of a deal. But because we're inside all the time, it is a big deal. And now we have to cover our translucent skin. Some's translucent more than others.
I mean, I don't know why you looked at me because apparently I'm a fake ginger. And so I don't know what that is. Yeah.
When we accused you of being a fake ginger, you offered to take off your shirt and let us see your lungs.
Right. Because
Which we
you can see
immediately said.
directly, yeah, you can see directly
Which
through.
it's not that kind of hunting trip.
I can. Yeah. I could just be naked for the rest of this.
I mean, that's what you wanted to do. You said, "Hey guys, wouldn't it be funny if we just started it out in our underwear?"
The speed at which you offered that was startling.
It really was scary.
I feel like I'll put me in a corner. When I'm put in a corner, I get naked. That's
okay. Well, we will. That's good enough. Put middle note of that.
No, have you not seen those videos of those guys that they try to like get people to fight them in public and then they just strip down to like a thong,
I
like
have
a man
not.
thong?
Our algorithm must be very different. I've never seen one of those.
Well, fact check true as well. But like, I think, are you going to fight a guy in a thong?
I'm not.
I mean, how big is the guy?
How big a guy is he? What did he say beforehand? Right. What color is the thong?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of those things are important before I answer this question.
Is this like a comedy tour? What are we doing?
I don't know. But speaking of Nephilim, so what exactly?
Hey, let me get us back. We'll get back to the Nephilim.
Okay.
Let me
put a pin in that.
Okay. So normally on Kyle's show, he always does some type of stupid bit at the very beginning. Where he's like, "Hey guys, I got some smelling salts. Let's smell the smelling salts." Or, "Hey
it's
guys,"
not a stupid bit. It's a setup. All right.
Okay.
We're in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
Hello.
Well, let's do some entertainment here. And so,
oh boy,
you've also required me to eat like 7 different types of Christmas tree cakes. So I got
you didn't eat any.
I got something a little special here, okay?
Oh my God.
I hope you guys like cheese because we got 3 different types of cheese here. So this cheese is habanero and jalapeno. Who wants that? Habanero and jalapeno. We're gonna try that.
Okay.
Okay. And then we're also gonna try, what do we got here? This is bacon and horseradish.
Okay.
Bacon and
Oh,
horseradish.
yeah, you can have that one, Matt.
Yeah, that one's for you. And then let's see.
Open the sinuses.
Jalapeno and cayenne. So jalapeno and cayenne's for me.
That's yours then.
That's gonna
okay,
be me.
you just want me to hold
but
that.
you gotta hold that.
Why are we doing this?
Because we're gonna each try a bite of the cheese and then we're gonna rank it and see which one's the best.
It's like
and
lukewarm.
check out this man knife.
Oh,
this
okay.
K-bar
All right. Here,
knife. Yeah.
here, you open them all up.
Is that a,
You open them all up because
Okay,
I gotta hold my microphone. Look. The show. Yeah, the host of the show's got to open all the cheese. Okay, so have you ever done smelling salts before?
I have.
Did you have to do them on Kyle's show?
No, I wouldn't have. But he's made me do some other dumb things.
What did he make you do?
I had to play that game where you put the thing in your mouth where you can't talk and you're like,
What's that called, Kyle?
That's I think what that's called is holding a knife, a cigar, and some cheese. I don't know what that's called, Adam. How about you look it up with your free hand?
Well, you're the one who came up with the dumb game. Is this the dumbest game we've had to do on the show?
Let's eat cheese game? Yeah, it's pretty stupid.
I mean, this is so absurd.
Okay, well, we could skip the cheese if you think we should skip the cheese, but I'm curious. All I really wanted to do was just to make Kyle mad. The veins are coming out of his translucent forehead right now. It's okay. Just forget the cheese. We'll eat the cheese.
Oh.
No, we're leaning in. We are leaning in at this point.
This podcast could be like 4 hours long.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about hunting. We're going to just
I love hunting.
Transfer into hunting. So what's the most important thing when it comes to hunting and you're using a firearm? Should you have firearm safety?
Absolutely. Like if you were asking me if you brought your rifle into the house, should you not have a round chambered and a full magazine in? I would say, yeah, you learn that in the Boy Scouts.
In the Boy Scout, like
Tenderfoot, like first patch.
So if you were close to somebody who possibly left a hot round in the chamber of a cabin, I mean, would you continue to hunt with that person?
I mean, I'm just going to head on a swivel is what I've got it because I don't know when he might let a round fly without knowing it.
Have you ever known somebody to do that?
Kyle was the first.
Kyle was the first. Yeah.
This is my safety. Okay. All right.
I think it's that you're supposed to put that up in your mind.
I think we're just gonna say that. I mean, I don't know exactly what the problem is with that because it's a bunch of adults there, no kids running around.
With a hot round in the cabin?
Why not? You know, these hogs here in Oklahoma, they are on
They'll break
another
and
level.
enter. They'll break and enter.
I mean, all the guys from Florida film crew is like, do we have any guns? What if the coyotes come and get us?
Right.
They have dinosaurs that roam the streets and they're worried about nature dogs. And it's like, what exactly are we supposed to do?
Let me give you that one.
All right, have we, I'm not trying that horseradish nonsense.
This is the jalapeno cayenne.
Yeah, I already got a bite of that.
It's pretty good.
You do that one?
Cheese. Were y'all part of the cheese thing? All right, hey, poke
No,
Habanero.
This was all me. Oh, that's not hot enough. It says cayenne, but there's no real flavor to this. Who is this?
This is habanero jalapeno. That's got a little kick.
Dietz and Watson.
Do you already have some?
Artisan cheeses.
I think that's my bite right there.
Okay.
Jalapeno and
that's
cayenne.
your bite.
I don't know if Dietz or
This
Watson is still the owner.
See, the
but
problem is we have all of my little setups on the foraging table. There's like a transition of some kind. How do we transition away from the warm cheese?
Well, I was trying to transition over to hunting in the live round that you left in your chamber.
Yeah.
Which you didn't even know about until right now because we've been sitting on that for you all day.
No, I mean, I knew about it because that's my rifle and I was ready to go. Got to be ready to go at all times. Kind of like the one time when you made me deaf in my left ear because you're like, there's hogs at the feeder right now. And so we go running out and I've got your scar. And I just let off this round and like my left ear has been ringing for the last 5 years because of that. So wear your ear protection, kids. I don't know what camera I'm supposed
But
to
here's
look. That
where
one. That's my camera.
I
Thank
think
you.
this is where I get confused is you were ready to go and you slept in. So you had a live round in your rifle and a full magazine like you were ready to go. But you
y'all
weren't
all
going.
left this morning. Who is going to defend the house?
Oh, makes sense.
Oh, that's a good point.
Except we gave the guys from Jacksonville your rifle. So
If you need the rifle, why do you do so much training in jujitsu?
And then they chose not. Well, yeah. I mean, if anyone breaks into my house,
we don't
I'm
need to bring
butt
them.
scooting all the way over to them.
We don't need to bring those guys in. They're sweet guys.
Well, I mean, they are sweet guys, but they let some sweet animals with sweet faces just walk on, and I don't know what that's all about.
I think if someone was
Do you
in
want
the
to come
blind
speak for
with them
yourself?
and said you should shoot, they would have.
Well, Kyle, some people care about hunting laws. See, there's these things called hunting laws that you're supposed to follow.
Wait, there's laws around this?
There are laws, and there's actually...
I thought you were just supposed to shoot indiscriminately.
That's what I've heard. Have you ever broken any hunting laws?
Not
Kyle?
that I can recall. I mean, I do remember a guy that shot 2 bobcats in 5 seconds, and it wasn't bobcat season. I don't know what that guy's all about, but I'm pretty sure he just put him in the freezer and took him to the taxidermist a week later. But we won't name that guy. He might be on this property.
That guy sounds like a loser, almost like a loser, like somebody who would shoot a cow elk out of season with
So
the wrong...
speaking of Nephilim.
I just have cheese on my lap that I don't know what I'm
All right,
supposed to.
well,
Oh,
do
and I
we
dropped
put
my
it in the
cigar.
fight? You drop.
Oh, you dropped your cigar. That's
Oh,
not
great,
good.
but he didn't drop the cheese.
He kept the
So,
cheese.
Kept
Okay,
the cheese.
what was
We're
that
good.
orange one? The orange one was better. This one? Let's go. Dietz and Watson, habanero and jalapeno. That's got some heat to it.
That one's pretty good. It wasn't very hot.
That one's pretty good. And then jalapeno and cayenne, not so much.
That's why I'm gonna let you just put those back in your jacket.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. But yeah, good try.
Okay,
it was a good.
Yeah, I thought.
I mean,
so.
You did try to do my intro for my show once too. I don't
did.
know what the circumstances were of that, but I think you made me mad, and then I hit record and just sat there.
Yeah, and I was like, this is Kyle, this is Matt, this is Adam. Let's get into it.
Let's get. It just as long as you say it aggressively, it doesn't matter what you say.
Right.
I've proven that. Like at this point, same thing with Matt. He just yells his sermons and then whispers and then yells.
I start tender.
Right. You know, listening to your sermons while driving on the highway is one of the more frustrating experiences because you take the roller coaster of yelling and tenderness, and so you're just constantly having to
Well, it
like
should
up
be
and
pretty
down.
it should be pretty compressed. It shouldn't be that bad.
Does anybody ever come up to you like, Matt, why are you so angry? Like, can you just like,
No,
no one ever
no,
does?
rarely,
Oh,
rarely
well,
if
that's good.
ever. I don't think I think you can be loud and not come off as angry.
Why'd you look at me? Both y'all immediately look.
Let he who has ears hear what the Spirit says. to
Well,
the
you know
churches.
what? Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And sometimes I just, I don't think people get quite fired up enough about very important things in culture like
What
the
kind of
Nephilim.
things? Like Nephilim.
And
Let's
so-
talk about Nephilim.
yeah,
we
so
keep
about-
talking about it, so let's talk.
I mean, everyone else is.
Yeah, might as well.
Let's hop in.
All right, so
You have a theory.
If you can just
You said you had a theory.
Well, I shared my theory beforehand, but I would like to start, since you're the most astute of the Bible scholars amongst us, I think it would probably be most appropriate if you kind of gave us, how about you give us the classical doctrine position on Nephilim, and then we can get into what some people have
Well, the
said.
Nephilim are a clear reading of the text. There are these demonic creatures that find the women of earth to be attractive, and they have sex with them, and then the Nephilim are born. They're like half-breed human spirit realm creature, and they were considered the giants. That's like bottom shelf, best I can do.
So Nephilim, would the giants of Gath be downstream of Nephilim?
Most scholars are going to agree that the giants descend from.
So how big would a giant from Gath be? So how big was Goliath? We thinking 10 feet, 11 feet?
Yeah, I'm an outlier here. I think what Joel Muddamaale's, the work he's done in this space is pretty brilliant. He was PhD with Heiser, and he thinks Goliath was probably more like 7 foot, which would have been ginormous in the ancient world, that the average Israelites, 5'5", 5'6". So a 7-footer would have been 10 feet to people our size.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like when you're standing next to Kyle.
Similar.
Kyle's, you're what, 5'6"?
On a good day, when I wear my pumps. Yeah, hey, you know what? It's not the size of the dog in the fight, I've heard, but hey, 5'10's a respectable height. That's what I tell myself.
It's a not short.
That's about as good as you can be for a 5'10. Is not preposterously short.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're tall. I'm just saying you're not short.
Yeah, okay. Giants, giants with all of your...
Yeah, that's the Nephilim. As simple as I can make it. But I'm not the expert. There are experts. I'm not one.
So have you ever seen like AI, like trying to explain why the pyramid, how the pyramids were made?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the AI defaults to?
No.
Giants.
Really?
But we're not talking like 7-foot giants. Like the AI defaults to, because you know how they talk about how
like aliens.
Yeah, how big the stones were and how far the quarry was that they moved them from, and how there's no ramp long enough that you could build, and there's not enough human suffering you could throw at it to move it all. But the AI has made like these depictions of literally like giants, like holding these stones on either shoulder. And I don't know, it's not Ken Ham, it's a different guy with glasses that does a lot of like younger stuff. He's talked about how all over the world they have found giant human bones, but that nobody wants to acknowledge that they're real human bones or whatever. And then there are people that think that the giants still exist. Not like Bigfoot exists, but that there are still like giants roaming the planet, that there's still dinosaurs roaming the planet. Like there's no extinction
Victor
event.
Wembanyama giant?
No,
still a human? Or?
No, because like all the AIs, these giants are like 15, 20 feet tall. They're like huge.
So if they still existed, how have we not seen them?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, Google Earth.
They're in the Amazon somewhere.
Well, if we believe in all the Candace Owens conspiracy theories, the Jews probably know. There was probably an Egyptian plane that was part of it. Right. I mean, I'm just saying.
If I get fired, Kyle.
Why?
If I get fired.
Because I said Jews?
No, I mean, just keep going. Is it you've broken
Let's lean in. No, we don't have to
lean in.
We don't have to lean in entirely. But no, like that's the one thing I don't really know what to do with that, because, I get told all the time that I need to have a young Earth, old Earth debate on the show, and I'm just so uninterested in the topic because it can't be proven one way or another. And
which way do you feel?
I feel like it's old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy into it's given the appearance of age, that argument. And there's a book called Genesis and the Big Bang. I don't know if you've ever read that, but chapter 2 of that book, I'm not smart enough to read that book, but I've tried multiple times. But in chapter 2, it talks about how depending upon where you're looking at time, the answer might be correct. That time back in the day wasn't in the same way that time is being recorded now. And so it's like if someone says the Earth is 6,000 years old, technically correct, but if they say it's billions of years old, technically also correct. And it gets into how wavelengths travel through space, like
What's the Matthew McConaughey movie that I just watched recently?
Interstellar.
So it's kind of like Interstellar, like time is a little bit different. There's a different dimension or something.
Yeah, so like time on...
Relativity, right? That's what we're talking about?
Yeah, time on Jupiter is not the same as time on the planet, not just in terms of rotation and, going around the sun and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm just not really that interested in the topic because I feel like it's such a tertiary thing that doesn't change the gospel. It doesn't change... I don't know. I just don't like being told because I'm more old Earth that I don't believe in the sovereignty of God and Scripture. Like, that's the hard part.
Do you feel like if you were to say that it's old earth, does that diminish the incredibleness of what God could have done and just created earth and it just went, or is...
I mean, I've heard your answer on it. So,
Yeah, no.
Why?
I don't. My whole take is the Hebrew little phrase, in the beginning. It's pulling from a Hebrew word called reshet, and it's only used in one other place in the scriptures to describe the early reign of a king. So in the beginning is this indiscriminate amount of time that, like, we don't know. What does that mean, like, in the beginning of this king's reign? How many years was that? What was... And so it's the only two places in the scripture reshet is used. So I think I'm with Kyle. I think there are too many other things that are problematic with how evangelicals think about the kingdom of God and how they walk in it, that to me, this can be distracting stuff. Like, who's the last person you told about Jesus? I'm not saying this stuff doesn't matter. I'm saying if this is your thing and, like, you're making scrolls in your garage and you haven't shared the gospel with anybody, you're not prayer walking your neighborhood, you're not making disciples, then I don't want to feed that thing in you. I don't want to have that conversation with you. So that's where I tend to land on it. I think reshet is this big old word, and I don't know. I don't think Moses was handing us a science book in Genesis 1 and 2. I don't think that was his intent. I don't think that was what he was trying to get across. I don't think that was God was trying to get across to us. He's not going, hey, I'm going to compact all the laws of science in these 2 chapters. Good luck.
Yeah, it's not a taxonomy textbook. But,
No.
like, I remember John Lennox, he talked about this. He came on my show, this would have been several years ago. I can't remember the exact reference, but I think he was saying we don't know how much time, so from Genesis 1, 2 to 3, like, we don't know how much time that was. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And so it's like, but how much time was there during that process? And so I guess where I land is it's like, okay, could God have done it in 6 literal 24-hour days, as we see 24-hour days in modernity? Yeah,
Absolutely.
Of course. Could he have created everything with age? Could he have whatever? But when people say, when they start getting into the dinosaurs never actually existed, their bones were put into the earth to test our faith, and he created Adam with age, so why couldn't he create the earth with age? But it's that literalist interpretation of Scripture. And again, if you hold to this position, great, I don't care. But, like, if you read every Scripture in the Bible literally, then Jesus wasn't a man, he was a vine. Because John 15 said he was a vine. And he's a door that we're supposed to knock on. So it's like, where, that's how literal are we going to take this? Because, again, it's like Bible 101, that this is a collection of different types of writing. There's historical writing, there's poetry, there's apocalyptic literature, there's all kinds of different styles.
Law.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different styles of writing. And so it's like, why would you think that when Moses was writing this down, that this was like a shot-for-shot retake of what happened in the beginning?
So if it comes down to old earth and we start talking about evolution, does that mean then we're conceding that microevolution is probably true and maybe macroevolution is not a thing?
I don't know how you argue that microevolution isn't true.
I agree.
But I think you've got to just, like, turn off your brain to believe that. But certainly we would say we did not come from monkeys.
Yeah.
We were made in the image of God. But certainly microevolution is, I mean, we see it all the time.
Yeah,
Now,
and you mentioned evangelicals, and I feel like that's 9 times out of 10. That's why they don't like the old earth theory, because then they think, oh, well, then you're going to go down to Darwin and you're going to say, if that's the case, then how do you defeat that? We came from monkeys, and so I think the micro versus macro thing always made sense to me.
Well, I've heard someone describe this, because I've heard William Lane Craig just talk about how Genesis is mytho-history and some of those things, and people don't really even like that verbiage. But there are certain people that think that we didn't evolve from, monkeys or from chimps in the way depicted in the picture. They're like, but we do have to have an initial common ancestor. And so there are people that were like, the Ruach of God was breathed into Adam, chimp-like figure, Eve chimp-like figure. And so they try to go that route, but then it dispels with that Adam was created from the earth and then placed into the garden, and then he was put into a deep sleep, and then Eve was created from him.
Yep.
And then, but even genetically speaking, everyone knows like that we do have a common ancestor that comes from a single pair. But that's where I like when people start trying to force. This is where I land with the young Earth people. When people try to force like an atheistic, scientific explanation for everything, and they kind of like try to mold the Bible in and around it, it's like, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. But I don't think that Genesis is a math problem where it's just like, oh, we just add up all these genealogies and then it gets to this. And, I went and saw a big boat in Kentucky, and so the Earth's young.
I've heard that place is pretty cool. Have you been there?
No, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Like I actually want to see the one in Turkey though, where they think
the actual
Oh, that's ridiculous. There's no way that's true.
It's potentially, yeah.
I mean,
that's exactly where the ark was.
Adam, calm down, bro. You came hard there,
man.
How old? I mean, how could the wood is still viable to where you could tell?
No. They're like it's like
Gopher Barky, bro.
It's Gopher. I don't know what that is.
I'm just kidding. That's the old song, Sunday school song.
Oh, okay.
I missed it too. I didn't know
sorry,
that.
Guys,
I grew
sorry.
up heathen.
You seem like you know a lot about this, but tell me more about it because I've always just completely dismissed it as ridiculous.
Well, no, it's like I don't think there's any wood left in that area. It's just like literally like the satellite photo is like
I've seen that.
There's a boat like figure that is in that shape and size that would have settled there. And then when people talk about, so like I'm from Southwest Oklahoma, so there's the Wichita Mountains down there, which is really cute because they're kind of like glorified hills. But if you talk to like, I don't know if they would be evolutionary archaeology, I don't know what they would be considered. They said at one point the Wichita mountain range was higher than the Himalayas. But over time with erosion and the moving of the tectonic plates or whatever, like it kind of changed. And so it could make sense that when the waters receded, that's where the boat landed because it wouldn't have had to have been in the highest place on Earth. It just would have had to have been in a high place like that. That's where the boat would have landed first.
Someone told me that West Texas used to be like an ocean, like the Permian Basin. That's why there's so much oil there. Have you ever heard that before?
Sahara used to be an oasis.
No, because it was all green.
Yeah, it was all green. So, I mean, that one, you might know the West Texas geography a little better.
No, I lived out there for 7 or 8 years, but nobody told me, hey, this used to be an ocean.
Yeah, I think they found like seashells out there.
Okay.
Like in the middle of the Permian Basin. Like, how is that possible?
They've found whale bones in the Sahara.
The flood,
the
guys.
flood?
There was a global flood once.
So the flood, it's interesting how many different religions and different cultures have a flood story.
Yep.
Was the Epic of Gilgamesh has it. So on the flood, the one thing that is an interesting theory that I have heard from young Earth people, this isn't going to be the Young Earth, Old Earth podcast, but like is with a global flood, it would have changed, we're getting past my understanding of science, but it would have changed like the carbon, nitrogen, whatever of the planet. And so like, that's why, people in the Old Testament were hundreds of years old.
Yeah,
and then there's
the
now
canopy.
Yeah, now there's human decay now and all that kind of stuff.
That makes sense to me because it does say that the heavens opened up. So I think there was something above us that used to be
like
there.
The canopy theory.
Yeah, that's no longer there. That seems to make sense to me.
Hey guys, real quick. You've probably heard the phrase, ignorance is bliss, right? Well, some of you are ignorant about where the beef that you buy at the grocery store comes from and what it took to get to you. So that single package of grocery store ground beef can contain meat from over 100 different cows, sometimes from multiple countries. And if one of those cows was sick or mishandled in some way, it's mixed right into your dinner. So most people don't realize that some ground beef at the store isn't just beef either. It's scraps and trimmings chemically treated with ammonia to kill bacteria and then blended in to bulk up the weight of what you're buying. It's legal, it's cheap, and it's on the plates of Americans all over the country, usually without the customer ever knowing. So even if you buy what you think is a nice roast or steak, it's been passed from feedlot to processor to packaging plant, handled by people who will never eat it, and raised by farmers who will never see the end product. And in that journey, the cattle were likely fattened on hormone-packed feed, pumped full of antibiotics just to survive cramped feedlot conditions, and processed alongside meat from hundreds of other animals. And by the time it hits your grill, you don't know whose cow it was, what it was fed, or what's actually in it. I don't want you or your family eating low quality, jacked up beef. That's why I want you to use the official beef delivery partner of Undaunted.Life, Primal Beef. So Primal Beef is a cattle operation owned and operated by Sean Glass. He's a retired Navy SEAL that partnered with Jocko Willing to launch Primal Beef. So what makes Primal Beef different from other beef delivery companies? It's a combo of the following. All American Black Angus cattle. And the beef comes from one farm, and that's in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. The beef is all natural, no hormones ever, no mRNA ever. And after slaughter, the entire carcass is dry aged, then hand cut by artisan butchers, and then flash frozen to ensure that it maintains tenderness, marbling, and flavor. And here's another cool thing. For every box sold, Primal Beef donates meat directly to a member of America's Special Operations Forces through the C4 Foundation. So you can take pride in knowing that your purchase will help put literal food on the table for America's finest warriors. If you're still on the fence, it's probably because you've been eating too much soy, drying your emo tears with your bangs, and you've forgotten what real food tastes like. Primal Beef can help with that. Try Primal Beef out today by going to primalbeef.com. That's primalbeef.com. Use the promo code Kyle to get $25 off your first order. Again, that's primalbeef.com. Promo code Kyle to get $25 off your first order. But I guess like if the language in Genesis is not scientifically descriptive, saying the heavens opened up, like there have been storms that I've been in where it's like it seemed like the heaven opened up, and it's almost like Forrest Gump in sometimes the rain come up from underneath us because it was raining and hitting the water, which was right up underneath them. So it seems more figure of speech to me as opposed to description of reality.
Where would you rank Forrest Gump on your favorite movies? Is it like top 5, top 10?
It's top 25 for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hard left turn in this conversation, but I'm okay with it.
You mentioned Forrest Gump.
All right, let's just go here then. Mount Rushmore of favorite movies. We need everyone's list. So give y'all a chance, or I guess maybe we can do like a draft. No, that gets too complicated.
I'll throw out 3. I got 3 right off the bat.
All right, let's go.
Gladiator is on there. Shawshank Redemption is on there.
Up there.
This is not going to be on anybody else's list, but my number 1 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I freaking love that movie. I've seen it 1,000 times. You could see me as a kid. I used to dress up as Indy, and I even had like this old tattered Bible that I would put in a satchel and a whip. Man.
And the whip.
Yes, and I had a whip.
You're
and I'm
walking around 3rd grade.
Yeah,
like
but I also had like
recess.
a little bolt action rifle. I know Indy didn't have a bolt action rifle, but man, I was just racking that thing. And then one of my other favorites is Harry and the Hendersons.
Never
That's
even
old
heard of
school.
that.
Man, you've
What?
never seen
Never
Harry
heard
and the
of that.
Hendersons?
What is that?
Dude, so,
John Lithgow.
yeah, it's a comedy, but it's about Bigfoot.
About
Have y'all heard of that? Has anyone heard of that movie?
Okay, we got one.
We got 2 thumbs up.
Okay,
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
I got a 3 over
So
there.
All right,
those
4
are
out of 6 of
probably Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Harry and the Hendersons is probably the movies I've seen the most in my life.
All right, so that's your Mount Rushmore.
That's probably it. Yep.
All right.
I would go Godfather 1. It's got to be there. There was something about the cinematography of it and the storyline that I loved. Braveheart wanted me to be, as soon as I saw it, wanted to be the best man I could possibly be, wanted to be the smartest man, wanted to be an honorable man. The gospel had already started that work, but that was a near religious experience for me. So I'd throw Gladiator on mine also. But Godfather, Braveheart, Gladiator, that'll be my 3 on my Mount Rushmore. It's a smaller mountain. I'd put Interstellar up there.
Okay.
I loved Interstellar.
Okay. So I watched Interstellar actually for the 2nd time recently. So I watched it in theaters, and like I feel like a lot of times I don't have the brain computing power to even like tie my shoes, and so I'm trying to watch the 3rd act of that film, and I'm just like, you lost me. But if we're going back, all right. So Gladiator is clearly on there. I'm gonna go The Sandlot.
Oh,
So
that's
that one
good.
for me is. Did y'all see that video where someone explained the gospel using the characters of The Sandlot?
no, but
Okay, so I'm not even going to try to explain it, but people out there on the internet land, wherever you're listening to this, like some guy on like TikTok or Instagram did that, and it was actually pretty good. Remind me, and I'll show you afterwards. I'm trying to narrow it down because I'm a Western guy, but I like more modern Westerns.
What about Quentin Tarantino? Because that's one I'm
Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious
would-
Bastards.
That's a top 10er for me. I don't know if that's on my Rushmore. What I'll put No Country for Old Men on my
good.
Mount Rushmore mainly because when I saw it in theaters, I didn't like it because I was like, the main protagonist was, killed, off screen and, but then later when you're like, wait, there's no music in this movie and yet there's so much tension. And then you're like, wait, is Tommy Lee Jones's character the main character? And then, I'll take an animated one since no one's done an animated. Give me Lion King. All right.
Whoa.
Now, as a father,
Hakuna Matata.
all right. Now, here's the thing: as a father, so the boys, we haven't done like many movie nights or whatever yet, because they're kids; they don't have the greatest attention span yet, being 5 and 3. But I mean, I saw The Lion King for the first time when I was 5, and I don't know what it's been like for you guys, but we had kids kind of later, and we were. I've seen a lot of things where it hits so much different as a father.
Sure.
So like Apocalypto, which is a crazy good movie, Mel Gibson movie. I always thought it was awesome, but then the last time I watched it, several times I was getting choked up because I'm seeing what this dad is willing to do for his wife and his kids. But like Lion King and the whole Mufasa thing, like that is about as near perfect a movie like as you can get, and it was made for kids, which just shows you the slop that Disney puts in front of people now with their bearded ladies at Disney World and all those different things. It's like the absolute slop from Lion King to what they're putting out there now. But yeah, I'll put that one in my mouth.
We were talking about Interstellar because I just watched it for the first time like 2 months ago, and I was completely enthralled in it. It was the first time I've ever seen a movie where at the end of it, where I was completely drenched in sweat. I was chain smoking cigars and didn't even realize it. I was
in the theater. Man, I got to move to Oklahoma.
He was in his shop.
I was in my shop by myself. Cass and my girls, they were gone. I was by myself. I was like, I'm going to go.
He invited several of us out to
nobody
the shop,
came.
And he was going to be starting it at like 11. And I'm like, bro, this is like a 3-hour-long movie.
I didn't know.
Like, what do you...
But anyway, completely covered in sweat. And I was like, I don't know what to do now. It completely enthralled me. And then I told you to go watch it again, and you're like, man, it hits different once you have kids.
And if you have daughters in particular, because that's a daddy-daughter film.
Yes.
Right. And y'all, because you have 2 daughters, you have 3 daughters.
That's where it hit me, because I just saw my little girl.
Yeah.
I just saw the imagining being completely gone and watching her grow up and not being able to be there.
So the scene where Matthew McConaughey, when this was after, I forget what world they were in, where they lost like 30 years or something and all that.
The water.
And he's going to his screen to like watch his son, and he watched those videos or whatever. Matthew McConaughey wanted to make sure that they did not show him like anything, and Christopher Nolan wanted to make sure they didn't show him anything, so he was reacting in the moment. So when he's like sitting there like crying and all that, he's obviously thinking about his kids. And it was just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, when you don't have kids, you can...
The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer too is just stupid. Like Time, that song Time, which is kind of thematic. It starts quiet, and I saw Hans Zimmer perform in Austin last year. Lauren got it.
Oh God, how was that?
Bro, I'm not kidding, man. I wept through that. It was the most beautiful. I mean, full orchestra, full choir, and I mean all the movies he's done. It was like 3 hours long, of just incredible. But he was explaining Time, like Time. That's the signature for that movie. Is it starts quiet, like when you're born. And then it builds, and then it's building like in your 20s, and then it starts to slow down again, and then it ends with that quiet little bum, 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 bum that it starts with. He kind of just does the arc of life with music. And so, man, that movie's up there. You know, another one, you mentioned No Country for Old Men, but Hell or High Water.
Dude, that is one of my...
film.
I literally rented that movie so many times. Kelsey went and bought it at Walmart. She's like, you've spent like $30 renting this. Like,
well, all those little West Texas towns I know because I was in Abilene for 7 years, and then that's where I started like traveling and preaching in Childress. And so like some of those scenes, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been there. So that's why, I mean, the story's great, but that was the thing that got me, is I know all those little towns.
I don't know what it was about that movie that captured me so much, because like the preview looked good. But I mean, we were at a stage where, I mean, I wasn't watching a whole lot of movies. And so I would typically just rewatch movies that I'd watched before. And there was just something about the story, about what these brothers were willing to do for one another. And there's, the stick it to the man thing. And the Jeff Bridges did such a good job, playing the Texas Ranger and things like that. But I mean, I literally just watched it over and over and over.
Since we're out here by the campfire, I think we should talk about The Revenant for a little bit. What about The Revenant? How did that one hit?
I
wanted
to love it.
Oh, you didn't like it?
You didn't like it?
Hold on, guys. Calm down.
Whoa.
What's wrong with you?
No, I didn't.
Let's explore this.
What
does this tell us about Matt if he didn't like Revenant?
I was going to like it more than I did.
Okay.
It's fine.
Let's explore this. So what did you not like? Can you point to anything?
I don't know. It was super dark.
It was very... I tend to like darker movies.
I kept waiting for there to be some kind of redemption in it. Then it just stayed there.
Yeah. So that's why people...
You're like waiting around for 3 hours, like, just make some kind of turn here, bro.
Yeah, it's a funny story.
And it doesn't.
We were going to go watch West Side Story live, and I was like, let's watch the movie. And it's been a long time since I've watched it. And so we watched the movie, and of course it ends as a tragedy. And when the movie's over, you just feel terrible.
Yeah.
And I remember looking to my wife and be like, oh, it's a tragedy. I kind of forgot about that. And then you just feel terrible. That's why they don't make don't make tragedies anymore, because you don't feel good when it's over.
Well, for whatever reason, like, all kidding aside,
I need to cut her.
yeah, I get you cut her. But like that's probably why, like, I can't stand the Marvel movies. Like, I just don't like them. I don't want any part of it, because like it's the same movie just redone with different characters, and like I don't want there to be a happy ending, I guess. Like, all the time, because it's just like, how often does life end in a happy ending? Like, it's just not true. It's not super common. And so like I'd rather deal with the darkness than to pretend like it's not there.
I love the Marvel movies.
I'm okay with them until once Endgame was done. I've been off the train since
That's where
then.
I am.
I've been
like
done.
That to me was my kids growing up and my son being a little boy, and all those movies were coming out, and I'd go get him out of school when it came out on Fridays, and we'd go watch it in IMAX. And so, but yeah, I loved the Marvel movies.
See, I'd be down with something like that, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I feel like I was more drawn to, because I was never a big comic book person or all that, and I didn't, really like Batman, and that wasn't my thing. But the Christopher Nolan Batman movies are like, it's so much darker, and like Heath Ledger's Joker was such a different Joker than anyone had ever seen. And so that's probably why I was more attracted to that, and that's probably why I like the grittier westerns. Like, so there's a western, it's Guy Pearce, it's one set in Australia, it's called The Proposition. Almost no one's seen it, but it is just brutal. And like I've told you, I love Hostels with Christian Bale.
Oh,
but
man.
the first scene
can't get through it.
Yeah, the first scene is so brutal.
I was like, I can't watch it.
Oh, so did you know how the first scene goes?
Not at all. I just started. I was like, ooh, a Western. And then, man, I'm 15 minutes and I'm like, I can't do it. I just literally can't watch it.
It was rough.
Did you watch American Primeval?
Do you want to tell the story about how that got ruined?
So my wife decided that she wanted to watch American Primeval, and so we watched the first. Yeah, I mean, we watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and it got to the scene where everybody gets killed and like 3 guys get scalped. She's like, you know what? I think that's enough.
That was the first episode.
Maybe it was the first episode.
It was the first one.
Okay, so
the first episode,
I think that was enough. And so she's like, I don't think I want to watch this anymore. And so me and Kyle and Ryan, we decided to go watch it in my shop, and we made it through episode 3, episode 4?
We were going to watch. So what we were going to do is on 3 consecutive Wednesdays, we were going to watch episode 1, 2, then 3, 4, then 5, 6.
Kyle slept in.
Yeah, Kyle did not sleep in. It's like a one-time thing. Is this going to be the theme? It's going to be the name of the show. Kyle slept in. But when Cass said that she wanted to watch it, we had to hit pause, and then all of our schedules went haywire, and it's been like 9 months.
Are you blaming
we
my
haven't
wife?
got back together.
Is that what you're doing?
Sounds like it.
What?
It's Cass's fault.
You're blaming my wife?
That's not what I said.
Did you finish it?
That sounds like what you said.
We only watched the first 2 episodes.
So we didn't get to finish it, so I made an alternative recommendation to go watch Open Range. And Kyle said it was actually his favorite Western of all time.
Awful Western.
Okay.
Horrible.
I actually enjoyed it.
It's great.
I feel like if I had watched it when I was a kid, I would have liked it as an adult. But it was like, I mean, it's up there with like Lord of the Rings bad. It was just so.
Oh, there it is.
So bad. Like, I just could not. We don't have
Where do you rate Transformers?
I don't like those either.
Way low. I don't like them either.
Listen, you're a Michael Bay guy, bro.
See, you keep saying that. I mean, I like some.
Okay, so not a movie, but it's on my Rushmore. Would be Band of Brothers.
Agreed.
Okay, yeah.
I've
It's not a
seen it
movie,
10 times.
but yeah, I watch it at least once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we could go TV shows. Yeah, like, I mean, Band of Brothers is always up there. I mean, everyone says Breaking Bad. I'll tell you, I've watched some shows that everyone said were awesome. That is, like, I watched The Wire, never got it, and that's in like everyone's top 3 or whatever. Yeah. Never really understood that, but you know what? I never watched. I need to go back and watch Lonesome Dove, but I wonder if I just would hate it.
If you don't like Open Range, you're not going to like Lonesome Dove.
It's probably true.
Is it too happy?
There's just a lot of storyline and
a lot of character development.
Yeah, a lot of character development. It's just not a lot happening. You're going to be bored. If you're bored by Open Range, Lonesome Dove, you're going to want to gouge your eyeballs out.
I don't like mindless, like, shoot 'em up. What's the one guy?
John Wick.
Yeah.
See, love John Wick.
See, you're just like,
different.
I need a story. I need a plot.
Okay, no,
I don't like to
I was
shoot
trying to
him
think
up
it-
stuff.
Jay,
No,
like-
I love
Love
John
John
Wick.
Wick.
like a
It's so
Jason
good.
Statham movie where it's
okay.
like
Enough
he's the
said.
same character, but
Yeah.
now I'm the beekeeper, and it's just like, okay, you were the plumber, and then you were the mechanic, and now you're the beekeeper. It's the same movie. Like
Those are like airplane movies to me. Like, I don't have any work to do. It's a Statham movie.
So if we're talking about TV shows, have we seen Stranger Things? I
yeah.
recently just started watching it. It's a little weird.
It's weird, strange,
It's a-
upside down world.
It's a little weird. I'm on season 2, and I'm like, I don't know about this. Can't really tell if I'm going to finish this or not.
We did. We finished it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get some emails now about how I watch demonic stuff, but it's fun. It's fun.
Well, we live in an era where a band like Skillet can cover "O Come, O Come, Emmanuel," and then they tune their guitars down just a little bit, and everyone's like, "Oh, Skillet's demonic now." So it's those
People have been
demon notes,
thinking,
man.
thinking Skillet's demonic for a long time, though.
Yeah, I mean, you think that until you meet literally anyone from the band.
No, they're amazing.
they're the best people.
They are Jesus loving, Bible reading, faithful Jesus people.
Do you think people say that just because they've got tattoos and they scream in a microphone? Do they listen to the words
then they would say
say
that. They would say that about Kyle. Then you just described Kyle's show.
Well, I mean,
Come on, everyone knows I can't scream after my vocal cord surgeries,
There
but
it
can you
is.
imagine if I could? If I had your vocal folds,
oh no.
Well, the Lord was like, I can't do that. I'm not gonna let
that's
that
too
happen.
much.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally like, in between surgeries, I mean, I've talked about it on the show quite a bit, but in between my 2 vocal cord surgeries, I couldn't talk above a whisper. And, I'm talking to, my wife, I'm talking to Adam, I'm talking to different people, and it's just kind of like, what is Undaunted.Life if I can't talk, if I can't speak? And, is there a writing ministry? Is there something that can be done? Because you're literally sitting there having to reckon with, like, I don't have a voice. And, like, my boys were young, like 3 and 1 or something like that, and I can't talk to them. Like, I'm like miming to my boys what I want them to do, and kids will just respond and do whatever you're doing. And so that's what James would start doing, as opposed to saying like, "Hey, come here, I got to show you something." He'd be like,
Man, I remember that period of time in your life, man, where it's like you're trying to get this thing to go, you're starting to climb the mountain, and then, man, here comes this vocal surgery thing, and it's like things are going good. That was a tough one because you had just started to hit like your first single, your first double, things were going good. And then it's like, where are we going to go from here? And it's like nonstop, like the more success that you have and the things that you do for God's kingdom, they're going to continue to try to take you out. I know I've heard Joby say that over and over and over, like you're going to be on the front lines nonstop. So
what's that tip of the spear concept where it's like, if you're doing ministry of any kind or actual kingdom work, when you're at the tip of the spear, there's flaming arrows all the time. And if one of the flaming arrows misses you, it hits someone you love, right? And it can hit your business. It could hit someone else's business. It could be health-wise. I was just talking to Dallas Jenkins on the show about, during the filming of season 5 or 6, he talked about how his wife and his daughter were having like horrific medical things that have come up. And you're thinking like, okay, like, they're making a good living now, they're seeing success and all of that. And it just kind of goes to this idea that Christians, they get this idea that they're entitled to a bunch of peace. Like that's the transformation of the gospel, is that they get to chill out. And you've seen it being in vocational ministry for multiple decades. I just don't really get how people come to that conclusion about like that's the life that they're owed.
Yeah, well, I think it's bad teaching and bad discipleship. And I think most of the texts that highlight that God is a warrior is his name, or that he screams out in this barbaric yelp as he conquers his enemy, those have all kind of fallen out of favor. And so they were replaced with, the feathered hair, super sweet, compassionate Tinkerbell Jesus. And so if you don't know, oh man, I'm, C.S. Lewis, I'm behind enemy lines, then man, this stuff's going to catch you off guard. And one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the 7 sons of Sceva see Paul casting out demons, and they want to try it. Their dad's a Jewish itinerant exorcist, so they've been around this stuff. So they find a demon-possessed guy and say, in the name of Paul's God, Jesus Christ, we command you to come out. And the demon speaks to him and says, I know Jesus and I've heard of Paul, but who are you? And then he turns and he overpowers them. And it always stood out to me that they had heard of Paul. Like they're aware of this man. Like this man is causing so many problems for them that they're aware of him. And if they're aware of him, then they dang sure after making things difficult. And man, I'm in my heart, I want to be a problem to the enemy. I don't want, I want them somewhere to say, I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of that guy.
I've read that story so many times. I think I've probably just gone over it so many times that I've never thought of it from that perspective.
Yeah, it always blew my mind that I know Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of Paul. Who are you? I don't want to be a who are you.
Yeah, the heard of Paul piece is what
huge.
Really made a light bulb go off in my head. That is very interesting.
Isn't it incredible?
Well, man, I'm actually curious for you because the first time that I interviewed you, this would have been at your office a couple years ago, whenever that was. You know, we were talking about how there was a period in the not so distant past where you would even say you started kind of mail it in a little bit.
Yeah.
And well, I guess you can kind of talk about that period of time because you know, the Lord kind of got a hold of you there as well.
Yeah, well, 2015 was our first kind of super public controversy. And really in our public controversies, the one absolutely guilty of. And I woke up to the fact that I had hurt all these people that I was trying to lead well, people I was trying to love, people I was trying to be faithful to. And man, we had sinned against some people, and so I'd owned it. I mean, I stood up on stage and owned it. Even as lawyers tried to convince me I shouldn't own it, I owned it, broke my heart. And then I said, man, I don't think this is an isolated incident. I think we have seen our policies over our people. And then I just put out the invitation that, man, if we have harmed you, we have sinned against you, we want to own that. We want to know about it. And so we are willing to meet face to face. We will not defend ourselves. You set it up however you want. You bring whoever you want. We just want to hear and we want to ask for your forgiveness. There were 50 meetings after that sermon. 50.
Jeez.
And man, you want to talk about being brought low. Like for whatever reason, that season put me in second gear, but I didn't know that season put me in second gear. I literally didn't. And I became kind of an empty suit, if you will, at church. I wasn't leading with conviction, certainly not the same conviction, because I was second guessing myself now. So confident before. And then I hurt a lot of people. And I'm not, like, I do care about the men and women of the Village Church deeply. I've been with them 23 years. My whole adult life's been with this group of people. And that I genuinely, spiritually hurt people rocked me. And that I couldn't go back and make it right. I can just ask for forgiveness, genuinely ask for forgiveness. And so that, I think fear is toxic to convictional leadership. I was afraid of being wrong again. I was afraid of hurting people again. And I didn't want to be a butthole. And, you know, around me, a lot of my friends and other guys I knew were, you know, getting disqualified, being accused of, you know, abusing their power. And so I just kind of was in second gear, and I didn't even realize I was second gear. And then but I'd gone to Passion, and the Spirit had just done this profound work at Passion. And I was out at my river cabin. I was just going for a walk with the Lord, and it felt like he just asked me if I wanted to be done. Like, not do I want to quit, but do I want to just keep doing this? You know, look, the church it's good. It's, you know, you're going to go down as, you know, one of the better preachers of your day. You're like, we can just ride this thing out. And I didn't feel like I was in trouble. I didn't feel like he was disciplining me. It felt really compassionate. But the Lord knows me, so he knew that was going to provoke me. So he provoked me, and I felt like, Tombstone. I was like, I'm in my prime. Like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm not done. Like, I'm in my prime. And then came the rebuke. And the rebuke was, then I'm going to need you to start leading again. I'm going to need you to get back to convictional leadership, convictional preaching. I need you to wake up, if you will. If I think of Paul in Ephesians, wake up, you sleeper. It was that kind of moment for me. And, I went back and forth with the Lord while I was like, well, here I've been an empty suit for, 5 years. If I come back in that gear.
Like feels like you're overcompensating or something.
Yeah, if I come back, in fifth, I've got a whole staff now that knows how to interact with me in second. How are they going to survive that? I don't want to be a butthole. And the Lord was like, are you a butthole? And I'm like, I'm genuinely not. I love people. I see them. I try to be present, deeply care about people. Sometimes I wish I didn't care like I did. And he was like, then what are we talking about? And so I wrote a letter to Josh Patterson, the other lead pastor, closest friend. And I was just like, man, I'm not sure I would join this church if I wasn't the pastor. And I think these 6 things need to change, or I'm taking that as the Lord leading me to do something else. And so wrote that letter, gave it to Josh, said, hey, I'm going to swing by your house in a week or so. Let's talk through this. And that was my fleece. That was my fleece at TBC. It was, am I finishing my run here? Or do you have something else? Do you want 5th gear convictional Matt back at TBC, or do you want him somewhere else? Because what I want, man, and if this sounds idolatrous, maybe it is a little bit, I don't think it is. I want Jesus with Lauren. That's what I want. That's what I feel called to. I want as much of Jesus as I can get with Lauren. And so I'll do that wherever he sends me, wherever he wants me to go. And so the fleece for me was, if I have to fight Josh, I can probably win because I have the pulpit. But I don't want that relationally, and I don't want that for the Village. It's such a great church. I would hate to blow it up for me waking back up. And man, I sat down with him at his house, at his dining room table, and he's like, man, I agree with these 6, and I'd add these 2. And I was like, bro, I like those 2 too. And so I'm still at TBC.
Now, at what point, okay, so when you're going through that, you don't know how Josh is going to respond, but at what point are you thinking, did you think of an option that wasn't TBC, where you were like, okay, Jesus plus Lauren equals something else? There had to have been an idea there somewhere.
Well, I was willing to plant a church. I've always wanted to plant a church. I've never gotten to. I've gotten to plant hundreds of churches, but I haven't never got to plant one. And so, and even that can be attractive when you're in your 40s, you've got all the lessons of your 20s and 30s. You're like, man, if I could start over, here's how I'd build this in a different way. And, you're not having to correct anything. You're just starting with all the pain, loss, and stupidity of the decades before you. And so I was thinking about that. Lauren's always down for adventure. I mean, Elsie, if I called her tonight and was like, hey, I think the Lord's asking us to sell everything and move to Whitefish, Montana, she would be like, okay,
she's just down.
I'm going to need to order some boxes. So she's just always down. She has so much faith in me and in the Lord. But I didn't know what I was going to do. I was going to, let's take it one step at a time. Is TBC still my long-term future? Because up until that point, I'd been talking about our 40 years. What's it look like to pour 40 years into this place? And so, but that's not the way it played out. And then I came back in 5th gear, and just for a full year, it was like, nobody really gets to tell me no on ancillary things. So historically, the way it would look, here's what I mean by non-convictional empty suit. I'll give real stories. Be like, hey man, I think we should start Alpha, but not call it Alpha because in our area, everybody thinks they're Christians. But let's frame it as like, get to know God better, but let it be Alpha. And I think we're going to see a lot of people come to know Jesus. The person that kind of ran that down line, we're like, well, we already do like this, which is kind of like that, and this, which is kind of like that. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, never mind. But what was in my heart is like, that sounds great. Let's do that. So I want a whole year where if somebody was going, hey, I hear you, that'd be really hard. I was just going, man, I think you're right. I think it is going to be really hard. How can I help you? What do you need from me? And I just started leading that way.
So I'm curious, when you're thinking in that kind of a way, were there people that had gotten so used to 2nd gear Matt that they're just like, all right, this is not, like, there had to have been some of a bit of a winnowing.
There were several. But I wasn't gonna, what I believe about leadership is what I'm supposed to do is reduce politics and confusion and be as clear as I can be. And then let people opt in or opt out. And so what I started doing is getting more clear in where I thought we should be going, what we should be doing, how we should be organized, the emphasis of the next season in the life of the Village Church, and then people self-selected. And there wasn't a single person fired from that.
So are we back in the 40-year?
You know what? I don't know.
Or?
I think so. I think I'll finish at TBC, and my closest friends are there. I'm having so much fun right now, man. We're stewarding this really unique move of the Spirit the past year. We've baptized more people than we ever have. It's just, there's such expectancy for God to work and move, such a hunger for the things of God right now. I'm having so much fun.
You know, I've never heard that story. I don't know any of the details behind that, but the first story that you said about the demon saying that, like, we've heard of Paul. Well, like, I think they've heard of you, obviously, because, you know, whatever that situation is and where it came from is the exact same thing. It's like you're at this point, and obviously, what does the enemy want to do? They're going to try to take you down, take your church down, take your ministry down. So you're in that same boat, my friend.
Well, I want to be. I try to live on fire. I want to go right at him. I don't want to play defense alone against him. I want to play offense.
So when you play offense, your hat says Jesus and jiu-jitsu. Tell me more about that. So how does that work?
Well, that's a whole nother ministry started by some good friends of mine. Kyle knows them now too. And there's some guys that I train with who had this profound encounter with Jesus year one for me. So I didn't start this ministry. I'm just like an ambassador. So a guy named JP Dental, who works for Jocko Wilco, Echelon Front, a guy named Stephen Little, a guy named Isaac. I'm missing one guy.
Ryan.
But Ryan Kramer's on the board, but Joshua Stromberg.
Yeah.
Those four guys went to this men's retreat called Pursuit. They had this profound encounter with the Holy Spirit. I mean, nuked them. Came back different guys, like completely different guys. And God put in one of their hearts, I don't know if it was JP or Stephen or who it was, that there was this like field ripe with harvest in the jiu-jitsu world. And that you've got all these men, you got women too, but a ton of men who this is therapy. I mean, this is where they're staying alive with, you know? And what if we brought the gospel into it? So the idea was simple. Find a guy who people want to learn from. Bring him into a jiu-jitsu studio for free. Like, here's a free seminar with Rafael Formiga Barbosa. He's going to teach butterfly guard. Bring in Formiga. Formiga teaches for free. And then they share the gospel. And then it just exploded. So they've got discipleship curriculum now. They're running Bible studies out of gyms all over the country. They've done one in Boston, out in California, all over Texas. It's just been this ministry that these guys started that just exploded. And they're all pretty good friends, some more than others. And so I'm just a little ambassador for them.
Don't you do jiu-jitsu too, right, Kyle? Have you done it before?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Is it like karate?
Taekwondo.
Yeah, Taekwondo.
Taekwondo.
I think you do a bunch of roundhouse kicks, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just you're using their chi against them. And so that's my understanding of jiu-jitsu. But no, like the Jesus and jiu-jitsu guys, because, you know, if you've trained jiu-jitsu for any length of time, you realize like the baddest dudes are also the ones seemingly with the softest demeanors. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that they're the ones that are going to de-escalate a situation as quickly as possible. It's just one of those things, like if you push someone like that, it's like it's going to be a bad day for you, but they're going to give you every opportunity to not have that outcome. And you see so many jiu-jitsu guys, like I remember Ryan Hall was one where there was a guy trying to, you know, fight him in a restaurant because he's, you know, this little guy. But I mean, the ministry that they're doing with Jesus and jiu-jitsu is just so inspiring, because jiu-jitsu historically is a place without a whole lot of Jesus in it. Mm-hmm. And with the ubiquity of jiu-jitsu now and the gyms popping up all over the place, you know, you're going to have some growing pain stuff. You're going to have some guys that have black belts and open up academies that probably aren't black belts. You know, they're not that legit. And, you know, there's all those things. But if guys can train, get an escape, learn a real fighting skill, but then also develop in their discipleship with Jesus, like it's substantial. They're really onto something.
Well, and like there's been, in all honesty, and like 90% of them are going to watch this video, there's been like a little mini revival at our gym. Like on Tuesday mornings after we all roll, about 20 guys meet up. There's a guy he's a white belt. He owns a company in town. He's got like an office building. Like 20 guys jam into his lobby. They read the Bible and they share testimonies. They pray for one another. A guy named Chris Klein has a prayer sheet that's on, like, we got a big text thread that he's always posting. Like, don't forget, here's the prayer sheet. There's always updates on who's doing what, who's going through what, how to pray for each other, and that was nowhere in view 4 years ago. That's been just the faithful presence of these brothers who train there, and Isaac and a guy named Will Tate, and I mean, just men of God, disciple-making, manly men who are pulling these guys in, man, and they're calling them out on their crap, and man, it's become a really cool community for me.
You said calling them out on their crap. Kyle and I, we've been, what did we start? Like probably in 2016, 2015?
Yeah, well, my first jiu-jitsu class was the Sunday after UFC 200, so that would have been 2016.
About 2016. And so what would you say to somebody who's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years into the jiu-jitsu game and is still a white belt? Is that good, or?
I think it's okay. I think probably what he needs to do is train. Like, he should go back and train.
There's no substitute for mat time.
Yeah.
There is none.
Yeah. I
understand that he had a scare. He saw like a guy's collarbone break and some other guy's toe or something, and that scared him.
Yeah.
But part of this process is to lean into the fear.
Yeah, you got to lean into the fear, because that's so, Adam, I think you just need to burn the ships. You just need to burn the ships. Get you a gi.
My two things were I hurt your ankle, and it was a weird thing where your ankle got hurt, and then 2 weeks later I broke my buddy's collarbone.
But it wasn't an ankle lock. It was just something weird.
Yeah, it was just one
weird.
Of
it
those
just
freak
caught.
Deals.
It just got caught, and I heard it and I felt it pop, and I was like, I just hurt my buddy. And then 2 weeks later, I break my buddy's collarbone. And at that point, I was probably 3 or 4 years in, maybe, and I was training more regularly.
Well, were you like super spazzy? Is that why you were hurting everybody?
I do kind of have that problem. Now not spaz, and to the point to where, like, when I feel pressure, I just have to freak out and get out. But I try things and do things that are unnatural because I don't do it enough, and I know that this is not a move I should try to do, but I try it anyway.
I saw it on YouTube.
I try it anyway, and so it just causes problems. Now, the collarbone, that was a freak thing. That was not my fault. The way I escaped, what do you call it, Kyle, where you're north-south and someone does, he didn't put on the seatbelt, but he went both over my, both arms around my torso, and so I threw my elbow up and tossed him over so I could mount him. What's that called? I don't know what that's called. Anyway.
This is with Mike? When
this was with Mike. Yeah, and he just, his collarbone just split. And so ever since then, I've been nervous about, not as much about myself, but
you don't want to hurt anybody.
I do, like, I'd rather climb a mountain. I'd rather come out here, and I'm always worried about messing up my knee or whatever. So my average for training right now is probably like 2 or 3 times a quarter. I'm coming in like once a month.
You'll be a white belt a long time.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I am. So...
Well, I mean, the thing about it is you are further along than a lot of guys that have never done any training, because, so I can't remember the guy's name, but I remember when I was on a security team for a church that I was at a long time ago. This was when I was in my 20s, and had never done jiu-jitsu, never any real fighting, no street fights, like none of that kind of thing. And I remember seeing this guy, he was like 5'5", and I remember him being on the security team and me looking at him like, what's this guy gonna do?
What's this guy?
He was a world champion no-gi guy, and and well known here in Oklahoma. And I just remember being like, what an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what an idiot. But there's so many guys walking around that have this outsized idea of how they would respond in a physical altercation, and it's like, brother, like, it's bad.
Not that anybody needs another case study, but if we wanted to go back to when Kyle and I started in 2016, Kyle, I think you would say that if we were to roll in 2016, you would probably win 60 to 65% of the time, because you're...
Yeah, it was maybe 55-45 or 60-40, something like that.
60-40. We were pretty close. He would tap me out. I would tap him out. We were both pretty aggressive, similar strength, similar athleticism. And then flash forward to probably 2022, I bet it was. And I had been sort of out of it for a year, came back, and Kyle and I get on the mat, and I challenged you, and I was like, you're not going to tap me more than 5 times in like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
And it was what, 12?
I mean, it was
12 times.
It got bad.
In 3?
It got really bad.
It was
Listen, I'm not
horribly
tooting my own horn. He's beating on me multiple occasions.
It was eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
I was like, he has accelerated to a level that I cannot even possibly imagine. I can't even, when we roll, I never have him in danger.
Yeah.
Ever. And I know it, and I can feel it, and I can tell he's never in danger. And I used to be able to do at least something.
I think after we've rolled, I don't think he's ever washed his gi after we've rolled.
It
He
smells
doesn't even sweat.
terrible.
Like,
No,
I don't
it
even think he's sweaty.
doesn't smell terrible. I just, but the thing about it is you always get medicine. So shout out to 10th Planet in Jacksonville, because before men's conference at Church 1122, I get my Dominion guys out there, and we're doing jiu-jitsu and we're rolling. And I'm going to roll with all the guys that are there, but most of them don't really train, or had never trained.
That's Kyle, come on, man.
What?
You're just beating up guys that never even been on the mat.
No, there's some guys
what
that
he
are
does.
like white belts that are training in the gi and all that, but it's just like,
We walk in and there's fresh blood in the corner, and Kyle's eyes just light up, and he's like, "Oh boy!"
It's like leave that trial class guy alone, bro.
no, you just, but I would just roll until there was a sub, and that would come pretty quick. But then I rolled with Professor Brown, and he gave me my medicine. And that's just the thing with jiu-jitsu, is like there's absolutely zero substitute for mat time. And, he had been a black belt longer than I had been training. And I don't know, it's just different, because like I remember trying to get into golf when I was in my 20s, because I thought, all right, you're not going to be successful in business unless you golf. I just remember hating it. And it's just because there wasn't enough physicality to the game or anything like that. But then, realizing at some point, it's like, wait, I can try to get good at hunting and jiu-jitsu and still have success and still have friends and, do stuff in business. But, it's just kind of one of those deals. Like, I look at who I was before jiu-jitsu, like, and I'm not being hyperbolic. Like, there's 4 huge shifts in my life. They're like when I became a Christian, when I became a husband, when I became a father, and when I started training jiu-jitsu. Because it's just like, man, if you've got any like ego problems or any like outsized aggression or like repressed anger or any of that kind of stuff, like jiu-jitsu just finds it. And
I will give you props, because you were the guy that we were always worried about. Like, don't put Kyle with the new guy. Don't put Kyle with the new guy. And now, when the new guy's there, it's like, let Kyle be there, because Kyle's in control. Kyle knows what he's doing. He's not going to hurt anybody. You've come a long way, my friend.
well, I honestly feel it to where I kind of honestly worry, like I turn 40 next year. Like, what would I be like right now had I not started doing jiu-jitsu? Because, I was doing, beer league softball and, these random adult basketball leagues and still working out and still doing all that. But it's like the things that I've changed in my personality and all that, because it's just been beaten out of me with jiu-jitsu. And the thing about it is it never ends.
Yeah.
Because I'm, got a couple stripes on my brown belt now. But you go walking into another gym, if anybody recognizes you or if they just recognize that you got a brown belt, now you're getting everyone's IBJJF finals effort.
So true.
And it's just like you can't turn it off. And then every belt you get, you feel like you're constantly having to earn it.
Yeah.
So you get your purple belt and it's like, no, you haven't arrived. Now you're like, okay, a white belt can't do anything to you. Like you got your purple belt, you can't let a white belt do something to you. Then you get your brown belt, and it's kind of that same thing. Like, and then once you get your black belt, it's like you can't let a collegiate wrestler blue belt give you problems. But then there's also there's the reality of, okay, if you're doing jiu-jitsu in your 40s, and then Matt, you doing jiu-jitsu like in your 50s, there's realities to what you can do.
There is.
And if there's, an 18-year-old freak beast guy that's coming in there, he might be able to give you problems, and you just got to be okay with it.
It'll be all right. Or just say, I'm not rolling with him.
Yeah, you get very
Seriously.
selective.
There are
with people
guys
you
that
roll
I'm
with.
like, I'm not rolling with him.
Yep.
Like, I'll get hurt, and I'm just not going to roll. It ain't worth it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I want to be rolling when I'm in my 50s. Like, because my boys are 5 and 3. When they're 18, 17, 16, I want them to be able to roll with that.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned adult league softball, and I mentioned my fear with doing jiu-jitsu, but like, talk about fear. Adult league softball busting out of like hitting a single, and you get out of the batter's box, and immediately your Achilles goes,
or you take a line drive to the face on the third base.
Yeah, the last time I played, I was probably early 30s, like 31, 32, something like that. And I was the only dude that would stretch before the game. I was out there stretching.
I was that guy too. I was 30 minutes before, and I'm like, I am not limping off of this
I was the
field.
only one. I was jogging and stretching and jogging and stretching. Everybody would laugh at me and be like, oh, there's Adam stretching.
Oh, Papa Adam.
Yeah, over there stretching out his hammy again.
Well, and they're the ones blowing their hammies and rolling their ankles going around first base.
There's a black belt that trains with us at Formigas or Double Five, and Dave, we call him Terminator Dave, and he, like, wildly successful business guy, has a podcast called BJJ Executive, kind of blends jiu-jitsu stuff and executive leadership stuff. Brilliant guy. And he's a little bit older than me. And man, when I roll up to the 6:30 class at 6:20, he's already there. He's already, like, he's got bands out, he's stretching, he's running around on the mats when we first get in there. I mean, he wants a little lather before he even starts. And I'm like, that's probably my future if I'm going to keep doing this. So it's fun to have a guy a little bit ahead of me that I can go, okay, you're going to have to really warm up before.
Well, I mean, you've talked about this before, but, you know, we get new listeners and viewers every week. You're a successful pastor. You're a published author. You're renowned just in the space of ministry. You've accomplished a lot of things. And of all the hobbies you can pick up, like,
seriously,
you could do boating, you could do running, you could have done physical-ish things.
I was doing physical-ish stuff.
But, like, I'm sitting here trying to remember because I know you've told me.
I was doing CrossFit.
Right, but why jiu-jitsu? Like, what was that?
In all honesty, I'm doing jiu-jitsu right now because I am crazy about my son. I love him. I missed him.
Shout out Reed.
I coached all his teams growing up, coached City League 11-on-11 football. I coached basketball. And then they get into high school. And what's interesting about high school is, like, high school coaches don't care what dad thinks about the defense they run or that. So then there was this natural, healthy distance. Like, you know, you don't lose your kid all at once. There are these series of things that happens, like they turn 16. Like, I think most people don't realize, because you're so, like, worn out driving your kids you feel like a human Uber driver. But man, the second you lose that windshield time, like, because when they're in the car, they might just open up and give you their heart, right? But if you walk into the room, go, hey, how you doing? Everything okay? Good.
Never.
You ask them at
never
dinner, good. But sometimes in that car, they'll give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you had years in the car with him, and then it was over. And so Reed's driving, he's playing high school football. I missed him. It's good, it's right. The distance is good and right. You know, as mamas and dad, that'll just destroy you if you just lost them all at once. And I was missing him, man. I was still taking him to breakfast on Friday mornings. I was trying to get time with him. Any trip I was doing, like at a men's retreat, I was like, bro, get out of school, come with me. I was taking him all over the country, and but we didn't have that time, and he didn't want to play football anymore. I love that kid so much. He's such a great athlete, but he's just not a jock, man. He just never liked offs. He wanted to quit sports every offseason. He doesn't watch sports. He doesn't play sports video games. He could just show up and be better than anybody else. And so he didn't want to play. I made him play his junior year and was just like, look, if you don't want to play your senior year, you have to tell me during the season after a great game. And so he had this, just epic game, bro. He was playing tailback, and he was starting, like, he didn't leave the field that night. He had, like, touchdowns and interceptions and led the team in tackles. He was just, like, putting on a show. And I just thought, okay, I'm not going to hear anything about not wanting to play. He came home that night. Was like, I'm done.
Oh.
And I was like, you broke up a 70-yard touch. How are you done? He was like, the work it takes to do that isn't worth it for me.
Wow. What do you say to that?
Yep, there's not much to say. And then he's so future, oriented. He's like, it's not like I'm too small to play college ball, and I'm not going to play in the NFL, so why? So I was the one going, because it's fun? Because you enjoy yourself?
I think in general that's hard, because we all want certain things for our kids. Like, we want our kids to excel at certain things. Like, I want my daughters to have a sport and do things in sports, but it doesn't really drive them. They're not super motivated by it. So like I'm definitely trying to not be the guy that's like, you must play soccer, you must go play basketball, you have to do these
Well,
things.
I said this, you will do something physical.
Yeah.
That's all my kids know. You're doing something physical. I want you learning discipline. I want you learning pain. I want you learning disappointment. That's what sports are so great for. And so I was like, okay, you can quit, but something's got to replace it, not video games. So you have got to do something physical, buddy. Well, he's dating this girl whose dad's a black belt professor at Gracie Bar. And he had been in Reed's ear about, man, you should train jiu-jitsu, bro. You got the perfect body for it. You're strong, you're aggressive, you're long. You'd be a problem. And so Reed comes to me. I mean, I remember I was sitting. He was like, Dad, what do you think about, would you be willing to go try jiu-jitsu with me?
How old was he at this point?
He was 17.
17.
I was 47.
So 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah, because this is when I started 4 years ago. And so, man, I was like, oh, gosh, because I didn't watch UFC. I don't like that stuff, man.
You didn't wrestle growing up?
No, I mean, just like with my friends. I had 2 sisters, so it wasn't like I had a brother no
fighting experience.
I mean, just like drunk fighting before I came to Christ, I'd go looking for trouble if I had too much to drink. But, and I learned early, hit first, and then just keep hitting until somebody pulls you off. That was my first fight, and I learned it there. Just don't go ahead, hit me, bro, because he might. And then it's hard to recover from a clean shot.
I saw a video the other day. I think maybe even we were watching it together, possibly, where 2 guys were jawing at each other, and one guy just freaking wheeled back and hammered this dude. It's like, well, you know what? You
literally asked for it.
You literally asked for it. You got what you got.
That was my first fight. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm like, if I think it might happen, I'm just swinging. But then when I became a Christian, like this isn't good or bad. It's just what happened. That was part of my, okay, I'm a Christian now. I need to leave girls with daddy issues alone. I need to quit drinking, and I need to quit punching people. Like those were my 3 things. If I can do these 3 things, I'm a saint. Like I'm an apostle. And so I worked real hard at that explosive temper that I had, that anger I had, submitting it to Christ. And then I was just like, there was nothing in me that wanted to go try jiu-jitsu as a 47-year-old man who's a pastor of the largest church in the area. But it's my boy, man. And so I was like, you know what, let's go. And so I went and did it that night with Reed, and they gave us some gis. We put them on. I was way too small, and beginner class. And man, I came home that night and I was like, I freaking love this. So Reed and I trained together for 2 years. We did a competition together. And then just school and work and girlfriend got the best of him. And he needed to drop out. He keeps saying he's going to come back. I hope he does. Double Five's not an easy place for a teenager to train. There's not a lot of kids there.
A lot of big, scary dudes in there.
They're huge. I mean, my gym is just filled with huge monsters. Like
they're all like descendants of Nephilim. There, seemingly.
It's just not. I'm not joking. The number of guys that are 6'4", 6'5", 230, 250, they're just. It's like half the Tuesday morning class fits that bill.
What I have the most problem with are guys like you with really long legs, really long arms, because you have a superhuman power to like stretch those things around me in a way that other people can't, and it's a problem.
I struggle with guys
Mike
built
is that way. Mike in our gym, same thing.
The fire hydrants are what give me trouble. The 5'9", 220 guy. That's the guy. There's no room in there. I can't.
There's no neck to choke, and then there's a gi, so there's no room for anything else.
So that's how I got started, and then I fell in love with it. And then I fell in with this community of men. That's just I need rough around the edges around me. If I don't get it, I get real angsty.
Well, when you're around pastors all the time, like, because, Joby's talked about this a lot, but, you go to any modern Bible college or seminary or pastors' conferences or stuff like that, you got a bunch of guys that spend a lot of time studying, and so it's like they have the affect of a Bonhoeffer, but not the gangster side.
Yeah. You need that, I'll hang you. I'll bring a bomb into your office. You need that gear in ministry.
Well, and I think the other thing that is helpful, well, it's just, we talk all the time about, Satan's trying to get after pastors, trying to take them out with monies and honeys. And it's like, if you've got a hobby that leaves you exhausted, like, man,
Yeah.
you just leave such little room for Satan to get after you with kind of like the normal attacks.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That makes sense because of Kyle, your ministry, you've always talked about not feeling comfortable in church and like going to church and not in church. I mean, like in a worship setting. And it's like these effeminate songs and just not feeling like this was not meant for me, you know? And so it seems like Matt, you were talking about you need to be around guys who are aggressive and angry. And it's like, if you have that inside of you, you got to have that outlet at the same time, right?
Well, the outlet isn't the shooting range. Like, it's just very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the physicality, and then for me, the thing I love about jiu-jitsu, even more than its physicality, which I love that, I need that, is it is dynamic problem solving under duress.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mental chess that if I've got a leadership challenge, or like this is a common occurrence that I'll have the exegesis done, and I'm trying to put the sermon together and it feels stuck to me. It's not flowing like I want it to. Man, I'll just go roll. I'll just go roll, come home, get in my cold plunge, warm up a little bit, get in the shower, and then it'll like download. It's just like that, making my mind tired with jiu-jitsu, Lauren would say, makes me childlike again.
Mm-hmm.
So she loves when I roll. I don't have the wife's like, you're rolling again? She's like, you should go roll.
And then you
should go roll.
And then you start feeling like you're getting good. You start belting up. And then the 5'4", 130-pound Olympic wrestler walks in. You're like, I'm going to smash this guy. And he spends his entire time on top of you and turns you into a pretzel.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yep.
So
Well, there's never, like, if your name's not Gordon Ryan or Andre Galval or Marcus Buchecha, it's like those guys could potentially go years without getting submitted in a real, like, where they're actually going hard kind of a situation. But that's the constant ego trip of jiu-jitsu, is there's always a hammer out there with your name on it. Because, like, I'll go to, I'll take my gi when I travel, or I'll take my no-gi stuff and I'll pop into gyms. And, if you train at a gym like Double Five or like the Forge here in Edmond or here in Oklahoma, and you just keep getting smashed by some of your teammates and you don't feel like you're getting any good. And then you go into another gym with people that are supposed to be on your level, maybe in a different state or a different part of your own state. And you're like, oh, okay, I just happened to go, like, the fact that Double Five is in your backyard is like, it's insane. And the best gym in Oklahoma is 10 minutes from my house.
Have you trained there, Double Five?
I've gone down there once, whenever it was a Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu events. Yeah.
Man, it's so true. Like, I always feel like I'm not getting better at Double Five. I mean, I might have a day I did all right, but I've never gone like, oh yeah, I clicked. But then if I travel and take my gi and drop in, or I fight in a competition, then I'm like, you know what, I might actually be pretty good at this. Mm-hmm. So that cross training is helpful. Not the Forge. The Forge was a lot like Double Five.
Do you do competitions a lot?
I've done 2. I want to do one more in March. I'm nursing some ribs right now. I don't want to go into a comp where I haven't been able to train really consistently.
Do you worry that when you walk into a competition, people see you from across the way? And
I have worried about it. I don't care if they see me across the way. I just don't want to fight anybody that just finished listening to, my Revelation series or something.
Or like, some very good atheist at jiu-jitsu.
It changed my life. Or that. Or, one of those people back in 15 that I harmed. Don't want to fight that guy either.
No, but it's just so cool to see. Just you'll see so many people like training and like doing jiu-jitsu, and because when you run into somebody, I mean, somebody that's actually training, not someone that just like gets a mail order belt and just does privates in their garage. Like not
I
like
take one of those. I mean, I think I earned one at this point.
You get one on Amazon, you just get your own belt.
Oh, I could get an Amazon, so I could order my own blue belt.
You could,
right? I mean, it's stolen valor, but you could do it.
But it would still count.
Well, until you're on the mat with somebody,
right. That becomes the problem, is if you take real classes at a real gym and then you get exposed, like that's not good either, because like a belt is a dyed piece of fabric. Like that's all that belt is. Now, And then there's some gyms they kind of give, lifetime achievement belts to people that have been training for a long time. And hey, we want to keep them paying for classes. And
I think if I ever get a black belt, that's probably what's going to happen because I'm going to be like 70. And they're like, you know what? He's still here.
He's still here.
Just give it to him.
But okay, some of the best advice I ever got physically was from one of my first real mentors, so Roger Webb, who is the president of the University of Central Oklahoma. I got his scholarship to go to that university. This was after college. And he's in his 70s at this point, and we're just talking about fitness and being in shape because, I've just been, a workout exercise fiend since I was like 16. The first thing I did with my first paycheck from being a busboy at Outback Steakhouse is I went and talked to the manager at Gold's Gym, and I'm like, I can't really afford the membership, but if y'all can like do me a solid, and got me a membership. But he told me, he's like, Kyle, don't compare yourself to 18-year-olds, 25-year-olds when you're beyond that age. Compare yourself to the men that are in like your age cohort. Because he's like, men in their 70s like can barely walk, and he's in very, very good shape. And he's like, my weight has been roughly the same since I was a teenager, and I've always kind of like minded that and kind of like kept that in mind. And so, yeah, it's fun whenever I because I'll go to like high school, I'll get invited to like some high school wrestling gyms, and I'll just go in there and work the guys out. And they're just, because like when you're 35, you might as well be a billion years old, like
So
to
true.
a 16-year-old, 17-year-old
So true.
wrestler. And when they see, you or like Jermaine or any of these types of guys like doing the workouts, they're like, oh, that's insane. So it's like, as I'm getting into my 40s and, trying to still take care of my body, like I want to always be able to outdo the people that are in kind of my age cohort without making it like an idolatrous ambition. Because it's like, as Paul would say, it is of some value.
Yep.
So I don't want to sacrifice, spiritually or any of those types of things in my pursuit of doing the Murph every year until I die. But at the same time, it's like most people don't have a physical standard of any kind to lean back on. And so it doesn't matter what age they are, they're not pursuing that.
You mentioned UCO. Did you know that that Kyle is a collegiate athlete?
He's mentioned it.
Do you remember what sport?
I thought baseball, but I think that's wrong.
That's okay, good. I'm glad you said baseball. If it wasn't baseball, looking at his stature, what else do you think Kyle would have been?
I mean,
what sport?
Maybe a gymnast.
A gymnast?
Hey, they could do the
In a
Iron
leotard?
Cross. Those
That's
are
what
like
I'm
the
saying,
best.
bro.
So
I could see
You would think
Kyle on the rings.
gymnast or baseball, maybe a wrestler, but no. He was on the soccer team. Okay, so on the soccer
That's
team.
right. That's what it was.
So if he was on the soccer team, what position on the field do you think Kyle most likely would have played?
I think it shouldn't be keeper, but I think it was.
It was keeper. It was keeper. He
Yeah,
is.
so they're not very good.
I think he's on the wall. Like he's on the wall of fame at the UCO Broncos for the best goalkeeper of all time.
Yeah,
Is the way
so
I've heard it.
obviously
I've heard it.
most
Was Kyle the one that
goalkeepers,
told you?
Pretty much.
most goalkeepers are stocky 5'10" guys. Like it's kind of it's an interesting story because I grew up playing baseball, and there was a guy on our team named Jason Sellers, and he quit the baseball team to go be the keeper for the soccer team. And he was one of our better baseball players. And so like there was just this rivalry between soccer and baseball, and like, oh, we don't like them, they don't like us, and all that. And I just never played soccer.
This was at UCO or
This was like
high
growing
school?
up in like high
Okay.
school. But then I'm at UCO, and I got a bunch of friends, and one of them is Matt Grassmeyer from the Forging Table that you guys will know. Well,
That's
I'm on
great.
campus as a junior, and I get a call from Matt. He's like, Kyle, are you on campus? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, grab your cleats, come to Fire Station Field. And I'm like, why? He's like, grab your cleats, come now. And I'm thinking like flag football, like something, whatever. And I get out there and they're playing soccer. I was like, whoa, no. Like, this is against the rules. Like, that's a European thing. That's not happening
It's not
here.
American.
Right. It's not Pride Month. We're not doing this. And so he goes, Kyle, our goalie is AWOL. We don't know where he is. We just need you to play goalie. And I'm like, Matt, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know the rules of soccer. I don't know anything. I don't know where to stand.
Why they put you
never
goalie?
not only have you never been in goal before, you've never played soccer before.
I
right?
didn't play as a kid either,
Right.
like 3 or 4 years old. And Matt, in his infinite wisdom, he goes, Kyle, you were an outfielder, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, what's the number one rule of outfield? Well, don't let the ball get behind you. Well,
There it
like,
is.
Of course. And
Same
he's like,
law.
yeah. Do that. Just do that.
So no, they didn't teach you any angles. They
Nothing.
didn't teach you.
So I'm standing on whatever that would be, the goal line, right? I don't know where I can go. I don't know about the 18-yard box. I don't know anything.
So
I
it's
just
like
know
in the movie Major League with Serrano where he can't hit the ball and they're like,
Can't hit the curveball.
and he can't hit the curveball.
Right. And so I don't know where to stand. They gave me a pair of gloves, like, because I knew if I was outside of a certain area and used my hands, it was a bad thing. I didn't know how bad. And so I remember this. I get 5 goals scored on me by these non-athletes, right? These soccer players, right? These defilers of athleticism. And
That ball comes fast, bro.
And it comes fast and you don't know what to do. And then, but I know that letting the ball get behind me is a bad idea. And I let that happen 5 times and we lost the game. And so obviously I believe that we lost the game only because of me. And so then I'm like, okay. So I start training with Matt, who's a fantastic soccer player. And I start training with some of the guys and I'm like learning the angles and like doing different things. And so they still needed some help for an intramural team and all that. So I'm helping. And then what ended up happening is on the University of Central Oklahoma campus at the time, we had about 17,000 students, but about 1,500 were international students. And so there was actually a World Cup competition on the UCO campus. And so there was like Team USA and Team Nigeria and Team Brazil and Team whatever, Japan. And so most of the guys that I played with were on Team USA and they needed a keeper. And so they got me because they basically got me to the point where I could do everything except for goal kicks. I could never kick the ball off the ground, but I could punt. And most of the time I would throw the ball. Like I wouldn't kick it. I would pick it up and I would throw it because I could throw it farther than I could kick it.
So on a goal kick, did somebody else come kick for you?
Yeah, the sweeper would come do the goal kick for me.
Oh, no.
And so we go through this tournament. We get to the final and it's against Team Japan. And these Japanese guys were so good. And then like during halftime, they're like smoking cigarettes and like all
So
this.
funny.
And they're just
so true.
But they're just murdering. They're so good. Well, we lose 1-0. And so we're coming off the field. We're a little disappointed. And the referee who had refereed the entire tournament, because the tournament took like 2 months or something like that. We're coming off the field and the referee goes, hi, I'm such and such, so-and-so. I'm actually the head coach of the UCO men's soccer team, and we've got a problem at goalkeeper. I'd like to offer you a scholarship to be our starting goalkeeper.
It's a cool story. I'm glad he's telling the
and
whole
I
thing.
think he's kidding with me. I think the guys like put him up to it or all that. And so this is my response. I go, oh, I don't play soccer. He's watched me play soccer for like 2 months at this point, and he's very confused. I'm like, no, I'm just helping out my friends. Like, this is just like a little side deal or whatever. He's like, okay, so you're telling me no? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. And so now it's my senior year at UCO, and he finds me on campus, and he comes up to me and he's like, we're in the same predicament that we were last year. We don't have a goalkeeper that we can trust. I would like to offer you a scholarship to be the starting goalkeeper for the men's team here on this campus. And at this point, I'm like, I had several scholarships. So I was actually, I had a positive Bursar account, balance and all that to go to school. And I go, tell you what, I'll come play, but give the scholarship to somebody else. Like it would be lost on me at this point. So I ended up playing my senior year for 1 year. And because it's the same league as OU and Oklahoma State and Kansas State and Kansas and Arkansas. And so 5'10", 100 and probably 75 pounds at the time, and having played soccer for
cat-like reflexes. That's the only thing I can.
So I would imagine everybody else that gets on that field and they see you go into keeper and they're like, "Oh boy,
we're scoring at will.
We're going upper 90 on this kid."
And the
all
problem
day.
was because I didn't know what you weren't supposed to do as a keeper.
It's like everything was back,
right.
so it just
everybody
worked.
up.
Right, and I was so aggressive. And so
really,
if the ball, I know,
I don't
shock of all shocks.
I don't understand.
But if the ball was anywhere in my area, it was mine. And if I had to run over you and your grandmother to get to that ball,
I was getting it.
I was going to destroy your entire family tree to get to that ball.
Because Kyle doesn't understand that. Like normally in soccer, the goalie's kind of like usually off by himself. Like don't touch the goalie, don't mess with the goalie.
Yep.
The goalie's kind of got this halo around him, and then here comes this raging,
redheaded, angry man.
So as I'm hanging out with these guys, like I'm watching some international soccer and I'm watching all that, and I had never seen the goalie get a penalty for being too aggressive. And so I was like, all right,
that's true.
If I clean someone out of their cleats,
I bet you I can make a new thing here.
Yeah, I was like, they're probably not going to call me for a foul and get a goal kick from the 20 yards out or a PK or something like that. So I was like, I'm just going to be like hyper aggressive. So yeah, that's my collegiate soccer story, believe it or not.
It's actually one of my favorite stories. I'm glad you told the whole thing.
It's amazing.
It is pretty incredible, really. Like when you think about it, just some random dude. What'd you say? 5'10"?
Like scholarship.
5'9", 5'9" and a half.
Like
5'10",
D1 scholarship.
D1, yeah.
Think of
Pretty
all
sweet.
the
I mean,
poor
D2.
kids.
Let's not go crazy, but we were in the D1 league.
All those poor kids that had drilled and drilled and drilled at keeper their whole lives.
Yeah. So when I was at Baylor was 2003, and that was right after one of Baylor's players had killed one of the other players, and so there was a
It's in
murder.
the news.
There was a murder on campus. Yeah. So they had open tryouts on campus for anybody to come and try out for the basketball team, and I was not a great basketball player. I was like 8th man on OC at my high school team, so I was just the football player that came in for 5 to 10 minutes a game and just kind of, bang
Fouled.
people around, foul, pretty
Just
much.
Dennis
He's really
Rodman.
good at rebounding and flagrant fouls.
Yes.
Dennis
yes.
Rodman, man, that whole career out of that.
So I signed up to go try out, and I worked and I worked and I worked. And way back in the day, I could play some basketball, and I went and I played out of my mind at this practice, completely out of my mind. We were in there for about an hour and a half. I think I knocked down 3 threes. I hit 2 and ones. I got the coach to come up to me and he's like, "What's your name?" I told him my name, and I was like, "This might actually go somewhere. Something might happen." And Scott Drew was up in the stands, and I saw him looking at me. He had a little pad, and I was like, "Am I going to get?"
He just wrote down my name.
Am I going to get to play college basketball? And they never called. Never called.
Didn't get that bad.
I was the 6-foot kid, and I was not the guy.
And
that they were
that
looking
was
for.
when Baylor started to fall off a cliff.
It was
that
because
moment.
they didn't.
They had
ask
their
me-
chance.
They had it.
They had their
And
chance.
now
It's like
I
the
was-
6 teams that picked quarterbacks before Brady.
Gosh, can you imagine?
It's just like that.
I could have knocked down a 3 probably 21% of the time, maybe 22% of the time. Those are pretty good.
But you would have scored Power 4, or I guess it would have been Power 5 back then, Power 5 points
Exactly.
in Division I basketball.
D1 basketball. That's right.
Well, I think it would be interesting to even kind of talk a little bit about what's going on at Baylor, because you're the only human being, you and your wife are the only human beings I know that went to Baylor and all Baylored out and all that. But just being an observer of what's happening and what has happened there, and I've made the appeal to where it's what is going on in Waco? You have Chip and Joanna Gaines going full culture warrior, swinging far to the left. And then the things that you're seeing going on that campus. And you and I have talked a lot about that, and just the different concerns of historically Christian universities. I think it's the oldest university in Texas.
Yep.
And when you have these historically Christian schools that are, like TCU is Christian in name only, SMU is basically Christian in name only. And then you have Baylor that's basically going the way of those universities. And it's there's this fervent discussion of what do you do, and there's this discussion of seminaries. Yeah. You have seminaries that have swung so far to the left, just acquiescing to our atheistic culture. And it's as an observer, obviously it's great for podcast content, but if your kid is there and you're paying $70,000 a year to send your kid to this university, expecting them not to come out pagan, it's got to be very concerning.
It just goes back to this same dichotomy between swinging the pendulum to where you're trying to say we are being accepting, and we want people to come in, and we want people to learn about Jesus, and we want people to learn about Christianity, but at the same time, are we affirming things that we clearly should not be affirming? Where is that line? What do we stand for? Do we stand for anything or not? Are we going to bring them in and accept them to the point to where we're going to allow them to live in their sin and live the way they always have? Because that's the way the university seems to be okay with. It's hey, you know what? We're just loving Jesus. We're just bringing Jesus in, bringing Jesus to everybody. We're not going to have chapel anymore because we want everybody to have their own version of chapel, which I could see there are some advantages to that, but also one of the descriptions, which I think they've now taken it down, but one of the chapels that they had, it referred to in the description that they wanted you to center yourself in meditation. I'm that is danger zone to me. That feels very new worldish to me.
Very new age.
New age to me.
Let me ask this, and I don't know. I have some experience in small Christian school, even though Baylor's not a small Christian school. Is it Talbot, or is it not Truett?
Truett.
Or is it the school? So when I won a distinguished alumni award, my experience was the School of Theology at the small Baptist college I went to leaned left. Like no angels, no demons, no virgin birth by one professor. One guy like would just say the most universalist stuff ever. And I'd raise my hand. He's like, I'm not saying, Chandler, I'm not saying, he would say things like, the grace of God is so big. I wouldn't be surprised that on the final day he didn't go, you know what? Everybody just get in here.
Oh, man.
And I'd raise my hand. He was like, now, Chandler, I'm not trying to say. And I'm like, well, those words mean something. But here's my, so I win this. They weren't fans of me. I wasn't a fan of them. I'm sure I was an idiot. So I'm sure I was not always respectful. But I go to this like Distinguished Alumni Award thing. There's 3 of us. Like there was me. There was this woman that had built libraries all over the world, and there was this woman who had like cured some form of cancer or something. And like those 2 women basically praised their professors for helping them navigate their own personal crises of faith. So the one woman who did libraries, she was super struggling with all these other world religions, and then she named these 2 professors that she had in her tract, I think it was literature or whatever, that pulled her in, that helped her navigate that rooted her in the scriptures, that built her up in the gospel and sent her out. And then the other woman that had like cured some form of cancer was the same thing. Science was like she was deconstructing, and she listed these 3 professors, all 3 of them, had them over to her, brought her into their homes, showed her in the Bible, let her vent, navigated her doubts. And they were like, these professors saved my faith. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anybody like that. I mean, I didn't have anybody log and show up the night I won that. And I'm curious if... So my lived experience at a Christian school was, it was the School of Theology that was left, but the rest of the teachers there, I've just got this swatch, and I've got my other friends that had other majors. They were actually being pointed to the gospel. They were being pulled in by these professors to love Jesus with all their heart, mind, and soul. And then they'd have to sit through this Old Testament class or New Testament class that would kind of erode at that and try to undermine it. So I'm curious if Baylor doesn't, because I know a couple of professors at Baylor who, man, they're just as disturbed as anybody else is. And man, they are fighting the good fight there.
You hit the nail on the head for sure, is that there's a lot of good professors and there's a lot of good people there trying to do the right thing. I can't speak to Truett Seminary. I don't know anything about it other than what I have been told, that there are some concerning things happening there. But I do know some of the specifics about, the School of Social Work at Baylor. Definitely has some substantial problems, a lot of issues in the School of Social Work. And it seems like the things that are coming out of the School of Social Work specifically are maybe rubber stamped by the leadership. And the leadership, either it's rubber stamped or they're looking the other way. And neither is okay with me. Yeah. Because it's got Baylor's name on it.
Yes, it does.
And if Baylor is going to stamp their name on a research piece that the School of Social Work is going to put out, and it potentially is going to get to the point to where they encourage churches to become affirming, I have a big freaking problem with that.
Yeah, and you should.
That can't be allowed. And so I may be somewhere in the middle where I'm very concerned and I want to make my voice heard about the things that I don't like, because I'm afraid that the pendulum is swinging in a direction that it should not swing from the top.
Yeah.
But there are still a lot of good people at the university, and some of my family still go to that school, and they have nothing but good things to say about their individual professors, and that their professors are doing the right things and saying the right things. But that doesn't mean I should bury my head in the sand when I'm hearing things and seeing things that we can't have Baylor's name on either.
I agree with that.
So I guess one thing that I would be curious about, and I mentioned so I know we're out of log, so we got to be wrapping up here at some point. And you're like a pumpkin. You're way past pumpkin time. Yeah.
Way past.
And I've said this before, and I've wondered it aloud, and I've come to my own conclusion. So I'm curious for the two of you, business context, ministry context. We're recording this at the end of 2025. And it's been a, I mean, every year is difficult if you just look at the news cycle or your individual life or whatever. But I look just within Christendom, and I see a lot of things happening at once. Because I remember at the beginning of this year, I was asking a lot of people that came on my show, I'm like, hey, you have people like Richard Dawkins saying he's culturally Christian. You have Ion Hershey Ali converting from Islam to atheism to Christianity. You have Wes Huff overnight becoming the most famous Christian apologist in the history of the planet Earth. You have Joe Rogan being Christian curious, going to church. You've got Jordan Peterson, who not a believer, but potentially the most influential non-believer to Christendom in modernity. And then Phil Robertson dies. And then John MacArthur dies. And then James Dobson dies. And then Charlie Kirk is assassinated. And then Vody, Vody, dies. And I was just sitting there thinking about the impact of those 5 men.
Massive.
Combined decades and decades and decades of service to ministry in different forms. Some, from a literary publishing standpoint, from a pastoral work standpoint, from a church planning standpoint, from a political standpoint. And it just felt like God is preparing us for something, because we're in this moment where Bible sales are at an all-time high. Charlie Kirk dies. And there are people sociologists that are saying, atheistic sociologists saying, we think the Sunday after Charlie Kirk died was the most church attendance in the history of the world. More people were in churches than at any other point in human history, which is probably true considering the population being 8 billion people, whatever. And it just feels like we're being set up for something. And I know every age kind of feels like they're in the end times, and that, this prophecy is being fulfilled and we're close here and we're close there. And it just feels like something's happening. It feels like we're being prepared for something. All these important men have been taken off the chessboard. It's like they're still alive because of the ubiquity of the clips of these men and, the long arms of history that will be attached to their written works and their spoken words on YouTube, all the things, right? But I'm trying to wrap my mind around what this means, because we're also hitting this cultural moment where Gen Z boys are the most conservative and Christian cohort ever studied. Gen Z girls is the most atheistic non-Christian cohort they've ever studied. You have Gen Z boys that are saying that getting married and having kids are their top 2 priorities. Those are the bottom 2 priorities of the listed priorities for these young women. And that's going to create all kinds of cultural and sociological issues. It just feels like we're in this interesting moment. And for me as a podcaster, or as Joby says, as like a prophet of culture, I'm trying to prepare men for the darkness that needs to be pushed back. You being a shepherd, preparing your flock to be able to operate, even in DFW, where the rise of mosques and Islam and the spread of that is to an insane degree. I'm just curious what your thoughts on are kinds of like where we're going. Like, what is God doing?
Well, I mean, that question's always let's find out together. But I had when I was getting my master's, I had a professor do this thing where he showed in American history, every 70-ish years, there's this massive moral upheaval where all the kind of rules about marriage, sexuality, everything gets turned on its head. And it feels like the church is going to die, and it's, Christianity's gone, and, the church in America is going to look like the church in Europe, right? So, and then he tracked it. So he goes back to the 70s and he shows it. He goes back to the 20s and he shows it. He goes back late 1800s and shows it, goes back a little bit further and shows it. And then he says that at every one of those, or around every one of those, there is a unique outpouring of the Holy Spirit in that day that flips the whole thing on its head. So you go back to the 70s, you have Time magazine saying, "Is God dead?" And then just a few years later, the Jesus Revolution. You had the Jesus movement fire up. You go back to the 1920s, you've got the Roaring 20s. And then you have the Azusa Street Revival, which is the birth of Pentecostalism, which whoever listened, you say whatever you want about the Pentecostals, no one's reached more people for Christ globally than they have. And then you go back and you get the urban, the urban move where you've got everybody moving into the urban areas. And you have the urban revivals with D.L. Moody. Then you have the frontier revivals. Then you have the Second Great Awakening. Then you have the First Great Awakening. And so I think we're at the beginning of one of those. I really do believe, if you're looking at what's going on college campuses right now with the Unite movement, if you look at all the stuff you just said about Gen Z Bible sales, like if you'd have told anybody in 2020 they'd be here right now, nobody would believe it. I mean, they would by faith.
It wouldn't be even computed.
No, by faith, you'd be like, I mean, maybe God can do anything, but man, we're in it, and it's moving faster, not slower. So now the question I'm asking is, will all of these brush fires, all these kind of hot spots of the Spirit of God moving in our day, are they going to come together either in an event, or are they just going to come together in a way that maybe we're in something we don't even realize it? Like it's stunning what's going on right now. And churches that I know that are hungry for the presence of God and serious about the mission of God are seeing unprecedented growth, like supernatural, like outpourings of the Spirit. Like we had like a Sunday gathering in July that we couldn't even start the 11:45 because the 9 o'clock went so long, and the 11 o'clock that started at 11:45 didn't end until 3 o'clock. And we had a line of people wanting to be baptized wrapped around our foyer.
Was that when Mitchell was there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but we also had one of those at like an all-staff gathering. We had one of those at an elder meeting. We've had one of those at a staff prayer. But that's just us. But Joby's seeing it. Like guys all over the country are seeing this, and I'm wondering, are we at the beginning of something that's like that great awakening that we have not seen from sea to the other sea? Could we find ourselves in a global outpouring of His Spirit, maybe to prepare for Him to crack open the sky and return? Or maybe it's just another outpouring of His Spirit, and the church will be strengthened, and the next generation of church planting leaders and movements will begin. And like Calvary Chapel, born in 1970, they have churches all over the world. The Pentecostals are all over the world. These are things that were born of a supernatural outpouring of the Holy Spirit, an awakening. And I think we might be at the beginning of one. I'm so pumped about that right now. All my energy's there. What can I do with any influence God's given me to throw fire on that, to lead our church, to avail our hearts, to be a receptacle of that? When I was studying the book of Revelation, David Campbell writes in his book, Mystery Explained, he writes about these bowls that are in the throne room of heaven. They're mentioned 3 times in Revelation. And the bowls hold the prayers of the saints. And Campbell was writing about how when those bowls get full, they get poured out on the earth. And could it be that those bowls are at a tipping point, and that the prayers of the saints for the last 50, 60 years for the soul of America, for the soul of the world, are about to be poured out on the globe? I hope they are, man. I hope that's what now, more than that, come Lord Jesus, come, Maranatha. But man, I really think that all this stuff we're seeing is just the beginning of something bigger.
I'm not sure I'm going to have anything specifically profound to add to that. And I hear coyotes in the background, so we might need to get our thermals and go take some of those coyotes out.
Do we have thermals?
We might have some thermals, so we should do that. But the only thing I'll add to that, like if the bowls are full and they're about to dump over, and we've just lost all of these men, these really important men that guide us and have helped us through this process. Your ministry, Joby, other guys like you're mission critical to be able to keep us on the right path, because now young men, Gen Zers, they're getting their information from podcasters now, and they're going to see Rogan go on this journey, and thank God that he is going on this journey, right? He's going towards something. But at the same time, he's going to say some things that are a little bit off and different. Like the other day, he was on a podcast and he was talking about potentially AI being Jesus coming back, and it's like, okay, I'm not sure I'm not on board with that, but at the same time, he's kind of trying to figure things out. But we need guys like you to be able to keep us on the right path, because the pendulum has swung to a really neat point where there's a lot of guys that are going to be saying some cool things, saying some interesting things, but we need you guys to do what you do to keep us, centered in the right way.
When I think because we made a joke, it's like, what does it take to be a professional podcaster? A microphone.
A mic, one of these.
And you can buy a crappy one. I started the first, I think, 300 or 400 episodes of this podcast. Landon, don't laugh. Hey, Landon's here, by the way. For anyone that doesn't know, Landon's been here the whole
Landon.
time.
The whole time. He's
Look
been
at
under
Landon.
a blanket over
Let's
there, and now
freaking
this
go.
fire's dying.
Should Landon
man.
come
I'm a
eat
little.
some
Everyone,
cheese?
hey,
Or-
Landon, you want to come eat some cheese on
Hey, we have
camera?
an Uncrustable.
No.
We have an
Come
Uncrustable
on.
for you.
Come on.
in the,
Those things will
Okay.
eat, bro.
Fine.
Those things
They're
will
pretty
eat.
delicious.
But I bought a $50 Snowball microphone off of Amazon, and I hooked it up onto one of the shelves of one of my closets, and that's where the podcast started. And so you can start a podcast for almost nothing. But the way that I look at it, I look at a guy like Sean Ryan, who went on a spiritual journey and expressed publicly his Christian faith, and then immediately you had a lot of the fundy guys, a lot of the super hyper reformed fundamental guys, they just love to nitpick every word that's ever uttered by someone publicly and to break it down and to explain why it's bad. And you had all these heresy hunters going after Sean Ryan. And my understanding is that, really bothered him because this is a guy that is a baby deer in his Christian faith. And then he has these guys that, they're getting their mustache wax out as they're drinking their IPA, and they're like, well, that's not correct because this, that, and the other thing and whatever. And I'm obviously perfectly okay with calling out ministries and in specific ministers and people that seem to be wolves in sheep's clothing and all of that. But I think part of what I'm doing from my perspective is when you see the rise of pseudo-Christian-ish adjacent people like a Nick Fuentes or people like that will say, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus. And then they also say Hitler was kind of a cool guy, stuff like that. It's to give guys look, I know you're excited and you're looking for a place to attach your excitement to, but the further you get away from the Word of God and the further you get away from fervent shepherds that are exegeting the Scripture, not eisegeting it, the further you're going to get away from God's calling, not just for you, but for humanity in general. And so, yes, I'm here to equip men to push back darkness. And the way that I do that is by talking about, things on my show that are faith, culture, politics, not always in that order and not always a third, and a third. And I'm just trying to give guys that don't have the time that I do to study what's going on in culture, don't have the time that you do to prepare a sermon and study the Bible, to give them something that they can attach to that goes back to the one truth that humanity can hang its hat on, and that's the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so that's the issue, and that's the calling. And that's why if I do get any negative feedback, that's why if I get the mean, nasty comments or the angry emails or DMs or something like that, if it takes me away from the heading that I'm on, that is my reminder to go back to the heading because it's what is required in this moment. And I have to remember my motivation from the beginning is, God, this is your microphone. This is your laptop. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say to the people? And if I only have an audience of one, you're the consumer, so let it be honoring to you. It's the same thing John Tyson said when he spoke at 1122 when he was a butcher, as a teenager. He's like, Lord, if no one sees these cuts today, you see these cuts. May they be the best cuts that I am capable of. Praise you. And I think that's the thing that helps us kind of stay on the heading. And for you and your ministry, it's kind of the same thing. It's what can you do to aid in this as opposed to detract from it?
Yeah, I'm 51 now. I'm more dad than brother. And so let me play my fatherly role. Let me speak life into what's behind me. Let me build it up and encourage it and walk alongside it and celebrate it and take the wisdom from wins and losses and successes and failures and pour it into what's behind me and strengthen the moment we're in.
I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what both of you guys do and for being willing to put yourself out there. And I'm hoping that Kyle can find the mental fortitude to wake up in the morning and maybe
you gonna hunt in the morning?
That's going to happen. That's definitely going to happen. But all kidding aside, I'm very thankful for the two of you because, Matt, as I've talked on my show about and told you, you were one of the first pastors that I attached myself to in college. Kyle Perkins was like, you got to listen to this guy down in Texas. And following your ministry, you know, when the explicit gospel came out, like devouring that and those types of things. And to be able to call you friend and to be able to say, hey, we're going to be doing this hunting thing where we're probably going to record it. Do you want to come up? And it's the easiest yes in the world. You're like, yeah, just give me the dates. And then Adam, one of the earliest defenders of Undaunted Life and supporters of Undaunted Life, and not just, you know, from a donation here and there kind of a thing, or hey, how can I help you? But just the encouragement. Because when I talk about guys in my life that are not afraid to interrupt me, you're one of those guys. And I mean that like colloquially, but I'm just like, you're not going to like stand by if you feel like I'm doing something incorrect, or if you feel like I'm getting off of the path that I purport publicly to be on.
Even when I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, you know, we have our moments where, you know, you come to me with something and it ended up being wrong, but the same has gone back in both directions. And so I can safely say that Undaunted Life would not be what it is right now without the two of you. Y'all are like cornerstone men to this ministry for a lot of reasons that you know, and for a lot that you don't. So I'm very thankful to you guys. But I think that we've got the fire that's almost out. It's about that time, and we do got to wake up early because, you know, it's completely inappropriate to not wake up early and get out in the woods. So
I would never do such a thing.
I wouldn't.
I wake up every time.
All right, guys, let's get out of here.
Thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@Undaunted.Life. That's info@Undaunted.Life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.Undaunted.Life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness, keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience, keep seeking the Lion of Judah.